Well, good morning, and welcome to Tuesday. I think it is. Yes, it is. It's Tuesday, and we let me get that monitor going. Oh dear, oh dear. Where Mirador is supposed to be on YouTube, we've got an elephant fighting off a lion. Never mind, it'll all come good eventually, I'm sure. It is summer. There we go. Yes, yes, we can actually, and we've got an overview again. Uh, yes, and at the bottom is artificial intelligence's view of me, and aren't I a handsome picture? That's the way artificial intelligence uh, brings me up. What I'm really like is up on the top quarter, well, in the middle, the one where the lips are moving. Well, welcome to Mirador Television, where anything happens, anything goes, anything is likely. The whole shebang sometimes comes falling down around our ears, but surely that's what television should be all about, not the stage stuff that we get. It's all getting terribly boring, isn't it? Stick with us. Let's have a look at the weather. It's been raining overnight. I know because the Red Devil was wet this morning. When I sat on the seat, I've now got wet trousers, and I've got to sit in wet trousers for the rest of the day. But it's going to reach 16 today. Not bad for the time of the year, but rain all day until 3 o'clock this afternoon, when we might start to see some sun peeking through. But that presages a rather better day tomorrow, where we're going to have sunny again all day. It's only going to go up to 17 degrees, but at least it's not taking a dip. 17, not bad. On Thursday, the rain comes back for some reason, but we stay at 17. And Friday, we nudge up to 18, and we get some sunshine peeking from behind the clouds. But tomorrow is the day, so get ready with your cucumber sandwiches to move down to the beach, and it's not going to rain. Right, okay, here we are. Now, this is all rather messy, isn't it? It's the real from the effigy. So I think perhaps what we'll do is we will get rid of artificial intelligence. Yes, there we are. And we'll put up our famous country scene. And just so that you remember what that's like. there you go. You see, I can look up, and but you can see the pub in the background. A lovely pub it is too. Yes, my goodness me. I haven't invited anybody to join me yet. I've been so busy with a whole variety of things that I didn't actually get around to it. So we'll do that with your indulgence. This is potluck. It's all our correspondence, and if they want to join, they can. And so here I am, busy going through our list, and let's see. So just a reminder to our correspondents, the people who make up Mirador, is that that you don't have to respond to this. This is it's just our new system to make everything available to you. If you wish to join in, that'll do for the moment. We've got a few invitations out, and it doesn't matter if they don't join in, but if they wish to, they can. All right. There we go. We're back again. We're back in this wonderful pub, which is a studio. And we are now turning it into, with the help of Declan, a teaching studio. Yes, don't worry, it starts to serve beer at noon in each day. The doors are open, and Declan, who is an absolutely superb landlord, it's totally meticulous, runs a splendid pub. Right on the dot of midday, opens up the door to let in the very first customers of the day. And they are well looked after, as indeed every customer is throughout the day. Does this sound like a commercial? I suppose it is. Except really it's more of an endorsement, because we're here every day and we love it. We just love being in this pub. And it's not because of the booze. I have, at the very most, a half of cider, and at the very least a glass of water. Ooh! But we bring you an interesting television service based on nobody knows what the hell's going to happen next. And if sometimes cultures collide, so be it. But we make sure that we've got something interesting every day. First duty of the day is to alert you as you open your eyes and you think, oh my God, I've got to leave the warmth of this lovely bed that I'm snuggled into, is the doom and the gloom of what's happening out there. And so we'll get on with that and get it over with, for our sake as well as yours. Let's see. No, there, that's what I'm looking for. the newspaper front pages, and basically the papers this morning is British Nature in crisis and game-changing weight loss jab. Those are the two main stories in the news. You might say British Nature in crisis. What the hell's that got to do with anything? Well, it's got quite a lot to do, really, because although we think that we've got it wrong when it comes to global warming, we have not got it wrong with the way that we've actually abused nature, both flora and fauna. And now we're paying the price. And it's all very well to say, oh, well, what the hell? It's things in the jungle, animals in the jungle, and so on and so forth. But if they are not there, if we do away with them, then we will see climate change. By God, will we? And we will regret it. So I'm glad that British Nature in crisis is hitting the headlines. The Metro, the King. I lost my sense of taste. Now, the King features prominently on a few of Tuesday's front pages, having officially handed over the role of Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps to the Prince of Wales during a visit to its Hampshire airfield on Monday, yesterday. Charles features on the front of the Metro as the paper touches on the King speaking to one veteran who recently underwent chemotherapy for testicular cancer. And the health of his subjects, it seems to be very close to the King's heart, and that's good. It may not be headline grabbing, but it's good. And I think that, well, he's not going to be his mother, and he's hardly looking like Richard I, the Lionheart. He is turning out to be a good, solid monarch, and I think that once everything settles down, we'll be all right. I'm looking at little things that flash across the screen to see if they're appropriate. Okay, so the King lost his sense of taste. I've got Parkinson's, as I never hesitate to tell you, and it sounds like I'm boasting. I've got Parkinson's. On the contrary, it's a real cross to bear, and sometimes I get a bit morose about it. But what the hell? It is what it is, and I have to live with it. So there's no sense in getting down. I just tell it to bugger off, and sometimes it does for a little while, and I lead a normal life. But one thing that I suffer from is the King lost his sense of taste. Is with Parkinson's, I lose my sense of smell. Now that can actually be quite dangerous, because if there are things like gas leaks or fumes, I don't know that they're there. And a lot of sufferers of Parkinson's are the same. So these are byproducts, if you like, of various diseases, and don't put them down. The fact that I can't walk is central to my Parkinson's. But there are other things like taste, smell, dry mouth, not being able to do up buttons properly, not being able to tie my shoelaces properly. All these things are not central to the disease, but they are bloody irritating. Believe me, they are. Right, the Daily Mirror, find your own way to Wembley. Official trip for families to see the FA Cup final is facing the axe. According to the front page of the Daily Mirror, Manchester United insiders have told the tabloid there will be no official trip to the FA Cup final. for the families of players, meaning they'll have to make their own way to Wembley to play rivals Manchester City later this month. The paper claims multi-billionaire new part owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe is bringing in a season of austerity in a bid to save cash at Old Trafford. Well, we all understand austerity. We've been through enough of it over the first part of this century. I mean, we're through the first quarter of 2000, and there's been mostly nothing but grief and suffering and discomfort. So why shouldn't the multimillionaires that are footballers see their own way to Wembley? The only thing is, can you imagine what's going to happen? Centre forward isn't there because he's caught in a traffic jam. Oh, that would hoist them into their own petard. But nonetheless, extra perks to somebody who's holding down 50,000 a week or whatever it is, these obscene figures that they get, is they should be able to pay for a lot of things themselves and not have them as perks of the job. The Eye, British nature in crisis and every political party failing to save wildlife. It got pictures of foxes, hedgehogs, squirrels, grouse, dormice, moths, and the top of the newspaper has got on the Eye, apart from the headline, has got sketches of that wildlife, and what a wonderful variety, and very pretty it is too. It says in education, year 11s feel the fallout of the legacy of COVID-19 lockdown. But the Eye News' splash story centers a joint letter from the CEOs of the National Trust, RSPB, that's the Protection of Birds, the Wildlife Trust, and Woodland Trust, who sound warnings over the decline of the UK's natural environment, which they say must play a major role in this year's general election. People that I admire and trust and think are very intelligent, I pose this question to them. Why do we always assume that in building more houses or more dwellings, that what we've got to do is to build more of what we've already got? Why don't we have a few think tanks to see if there are different ways of providing housing? I was met with sort of blank stare, sort of, I'm missing something. Well, I think it is worth taking a look at. I really do. The Financial Times. He said, and there we go, the Financial Times. Anglo rebuffs sweetened £34 billion bid to buy BHP as significantly undervalued. Well, it'd take too long to give you the background to that. But Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, also features on many front pages, including the Financial Times, after he told a court in New York he had conspired with his former boss to bury stories which could have harmed his 2016 election campaign. Mr. Trump denies charges of falsifying business records to cover up reimbursing Mr. Cohen for payments made to the porn star Stormy Daniels. The FT splashes an intensifying battle between two titans of the global mining industry after Australian firm Anglo American rejected an improved takeover bid from rival BHP. Not one to stir the blood, I think. But I'm amazed at the relish with which journalists say Trump diverted bad news. Is God's sake, Tony Blair was a master at that, and that's where the term spin doctor started. The end of the last century and the beginning of this was the era of the spin doctor, of where bad news was trumped, excuse the pun, by anything that was good, no matter how inconsequential. Bad news was slipped out on a busy day so that it would go unheeded by the media. A natural disaster was made to sound as if it was a day at Blackpool Beach. So Trump was following what many of his predecessors had done. I don't, and actually, it included a porn star. That's what's upsetting the Baptists. I don't mean the Baptists with big B. I mean those people who think in a very narrow religious way. They get upset at anything to do with sex. Westminster is rife. And every day a scandal unfolds, and quite often is covered up, of MPs doing naughty things with naughty people. Believe me, I have no brief for Donald Trump, but I don't think he who casts the first stone. We get on our high horse and our moral benches for reasons which are quite spurious. Anyway, The Guardian Labour report calls for rent caps to tackle growing housing crisis. Michael Cohen features again on the front page of The Guardian as he leaves court in New York following his testimony, where the former lawyer told jurors as part of his work he had intimidated reporters whose coverage Mr. Trump disliked. That I don't approve of. But leading the front of the broadsheet is an exclusive story on a report which recommends a double lock for tenants renewing their tenancies. The paper says the report's findings heap pressure on Sir Keir Starmer to do more for renters after the Labour leader promised to tackle England's housing crisis if elected Prime Minister. The Daily Mail. Ozempic slashes heart attack and stroke risk. Top cardiologists say we should prescribe fat loss jab to millions. Oh, well, here we go again. It's all down to taking one more pill. I'm going to my doctor tomorrow to have my medicines reviewed. I hope that he takes a couple away. It's onerous, and I'm not so sure that some of them still are useful. Dominating the front page of the Daily Mail is Miami actress Anya Taylor-Joy, who makes a statement in a mustard yellow dress and glamorous straw hat as she arrives in Nice a day before the Cannes Film Festival kicks off. But the main story centers on a top cardiologist who says millions of Brits should be prescribed weight loss jabs in order to cut the risk of having heart attacks or strokes. The Times. Trump, this is a banner headline, Trump ordered a porn star payoff to save the first presidential run, his first presidential run. But the main story is weight loss jab reduces heart deaths by a fifth. So the scientists are saying it works. The Ozempic weight loss drug features on the front of the Times, as does another huge story from Monday, the latest on the trial involving Donald Trump. Elsewhere, a police officer is pictured as one of three men who appeared before magistrates in central London after being charged with assisting the Hong Kong intelligence service and with foreign interference. They were given bail and are due to appear at the Old Bailey next week. We're back in the land of spies. The Daily Telegraph. China fury at the arrest of UK spies. Yes, well, people always get upset when their spies are detected and nicked. The charging of three men accused of being UK spies for Hong Kong also features as the splash story on the Daily Telegraph. The paper leads with China criticizing the arrests, accusing Britain of colluding with what it called destabilizing forces in Hong Kong. At the bottom of the paper, a tongue-in-cheek cartoon from Matt looks at a detailed fortune cookie. Well, unless we can see it, I guess it doesn't mean anything. The Daily Express. Game-changing new statin cuts weight and saves lives. The business secretary is pictured on the front of Tuesday's Daily Express, which says Kemi Badenoch is giving business a £150 million a year Brexit boost by slashing leftover European red tape. King Charles also features on the front following his visit to Hampshire. The lead story focuses on the new Ozempic trial, which, according to the paper, claims the new slimming jab can help people shed a quarter of their body weight, making it the most effective yet. But what happens? Does the skin hang off you? Does the fat hang around, or does this wonder drug get rid of it all? Aha! Let us. It's 8:30. Time, I think, for us to look at the Daily Star and get a giggle. The late great Hannibal Lecter's a wonderful man. The Daily Star features the latest on Donald Trump's trial in New York, but also carries an image of Tyson Fury's bloodied father, John Fury. It comes after rival camps had to be separated by security in Riyadh as the build-up to the undisputed world heavyweight clash with Alexander Usyk got off to an explosive start. John was left with a cut from an alleged headbutt, and the blood continued to flow despite the 59-year-old's attempt to wipe it away. Well, they are. That's it. Now, we've got Mr. Philip. Good morning, Mr.
Yeah, How good morning, Keith. I sense you're on good form this morning.
Not too bad. I got a good night's sleep, and I got up to go to the loo, and suddenly realised that I was walking to the loo without grabbing at anything. So my good night's sleep helped my balance, and that's
absolutely
any improvement with Parkinson's makes you feel good.
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased for you, as ever. I can spare you half an hour. I've got a delivery coming in at 9, but I just thought I'd check in, see how you were.
That's very kind. You sound like Declan. I've got a delivery in a few minutes. Keep your eye open on the door, Keith.
I wish my delivery was like Declan's. in terms of its contents.
What is it?
It's not alcohol.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Which is a great shame.
Yes.
I've also had a load of shenanigans because I managed to mislay my credit card.
Oh dear.
And I've given it days because sometimes they do turn up. But having looked literally everywhere I can think of, including going back to the shop where I last used it, because the frustrating thing is in the compartment of my car, I have the receipt for that transaction, but not the card. Anyway, I've had to bite the bullet and cancel that card. So I'm currently credit cardless, but mercifully I do have a bank debit card. So what one will survive.
Yes, I don't have a credit card anymore. I only use the debit card, trying hard to get my finances back in shape. But have you checked the top shirt of your pocket, the top pocket of your shirt?
I have checked every shirt I've never worn. I've checked every coat and jacket, again, that I haven't worn in years. I've checked every trouser pocket, back and side. You name it, I've looked. I've searched every nook and cranny in my car, everywhere in my house, in places where it would never ever be. But you never know.
No.
And anyway, it doesn't matter if it turns up now because it's null and void.
Null and void, yes. I did that a little while ago.
Thankfully, there were no nasty transactions on it, so I don't think it's been stolen. Just mislaid.
Yeah. Well, you're very wise to cancel it as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, it does no harm to change these cards once in a while because, you know, you get a different number and a different security code. And so anybody who may have noted down those details in a transaction, they'll no longer be valid. It's rather like changing a password on an email account. You know, if you start getting hacked, if you start getting weird emails, or your system is sending them, because I've had that as well. I've had friends ring up and saying, why do you keep sending me these emails? And I'm saying, I'm not sending you any emails. Well, they're coming from your address.
Yes.
So it's because the system is hacked. So you don't have to delete your account. You just change your password.
Yes. I mean, what annoys me about that, because it's happened to me and it's happened to a number of people, I guess, is that the thieves, the hackers, know the password, and I can't remember mine.
They don't know the password. That's the myth. What they do is their systems automatically detect the password and go into your system. It's not as if they're writing your password down. It's the technology that's doing it, not the human mind. But the end result is the same. They are hacking and using your email account mischievously. It's when they hack your real details that is horrendous. I was hacked probably 3 years ago now. The most sophisticated. They knew everything about me. They knew my credit card. They knew my BT number, Amex directory. I don't use the landline anymore because of this fraud. They purported to be from BT. They knew my mobile number. That's how they contacted me. They knew that the reception in this area, Wi-Fi, certainly in those days, was dire. And they were saying, right, we're going to upgrade it. They knew my BT account number, you name it. They knew the last transaction, the lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's frightening. That's frightening.
Now, the credit card people were onto them straight away. They realised something was very wrong. But my bank didn't. My bank didn't. And they got 500 quid out of my bank within 10 minutes. So I had to contact the fraud department of the bank. And I had to persuade them to give me the money back because of the sophistication of the fraud. And in the end, bless them, they did. They said it's one of the most sophisticated defraudings we've come across of late because of the depth of the knowledge. And they said, you need to get on to BT because they are the weakest link. So I did get on to BT and they promised me a phone call. It never came. So I contacted them again. Nothing. So BT let me down hugely because their system was just not secure.
Yes.
And so
well, I would say a couple of years ago, but it's probably 5 years ago now, 6 years ago. I woke up and for some reason decided to check my bank account, and there I could see money disappearing out of it.
It's a horrible feeling.
I called fraud straight away, and they said, "Oh, right, okay, we're onto it." And the bank refused to acknowledge it because it was being done through PayPal. And eventually, after my insistence and me writing to the chief executive and threatening to use this on television, it turned out that it was being used in California on a kid's playground. And I said to the bank, "What the hell am I doing, funding with on a kid's playground?" And they would not acknowledge that they had any responsibility whatsoever.
Because you were using, you weren't to know this, but I learned this the hard way as well. I don't use PayPal. I don't use any third-party payment methods at all.
No. You're right.
I use my bank. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Debit card, current account, and credit card.
Yes.
That's all I do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's all I do now. Mind you, I don't have a lot to lose anymore, and undoubtedly the thieves know that. But what astonished me, and I've never forgiven them for it, is the woman said, we are turning down your application for a refund. And it was, for me, a substantial amount. I mean, it was £2,500 that disappeared.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And she said, I have to protect the bank's money. And I said, hang on, it's my money, not the bank's money. But she wouldn't have it. And eventually you run out of steam in appeals.
Well, you do, and it is absolutely soul destroying. I know exactly how you must have felt. The feeling of helplessness, and this lot, they were based in Bangalore in India, and there is a British Telecom, a kosher, genuine BT headquarters in Bangalore. So these buggers, even if you check, is there a BT thing in Bangalore? The answer is yes. They had every angle covered.
Yes. And very clever.
There's no doubt the Chinese and the subcontinentals are very, very clever.
Yes.
Very clever.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing, IT-wise, to a very, very high level. So you never got your $2.5 grand back?
No.
That is an awful story.
Yeah, it is.
I'm really
But,
sorry to hear that, Keith.
I mean, I'm quite sure he didn't see it, but it went up to the office of the president, who has since moved on. And God help the organization that got him as a CEO. But the other one that in the last 2 years is I've had emails, and of course the thing is, if you respond to an email, then they've got you. But it says we have got a porn picture of you, which unless you deposit X amount into such and such it's one of these cyber accounts. Is we're going to put it on your social media sites. To which I privately now say, well go ahead, because if in fact I get some fans from being naked on Facebook is absolutely wonderful. But I rather think that it would turn people off.
The idea of an 83-year-old porn star, that's brilliant. As you said yesterday, with age, particularly with men, it's everything at the front that changes, not at the back. So
right.
That means you could still be in carnal knowledge now.
Yes. Yes, I'll have to keep my eye open to see whether they're going to make carnal knowledge too.
Oh dear, 80 plus, carnal knowledge too.
So what's the rest of the day bringing for you?
Not a great deal. Once there's deliveries in, I've got some friends coming over. One of whom ironically lives in Lewis. And then it'll be gonna get Jackie from work and the normal routine.
Right.
And then tomorrow, I'll probably come on about 8:45, and then we've got Prido.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to that.
Now,
in fact, let me show you what I used on. If you don't mind me moving you for a moment, and me. I
am dying to show you his latest, which I have in my photo gallery. But it'll spoil it if I do. But it's just brilliant.
Leave it until tomorrow.
It's just
I had brilliant. I had a visit from Susie yesterday after her, and she's in fine form, but she's one of those people that browns very, very easily. She's only been away sort of 10 days, and God, she's like a hazelnut, looking quite gorgeous with it.
Yes, I saw that when she was on before I had to leave. Was it yesterday? And her hair is bleached as well. The sun has bleached her hair.
Yes.
So she looks a bit of a babe, doesn't she?
She does. But as usual, she's doing, like the rest of us, doing more than she should.
Yeah. What can she do with her daughter? I mean, she's delighted to have her daughter back.
Absolutely.
And she's got to do that ridiculous school run.
Yes. But apparently GCE exams are starting, so it won't have to be on a daily basis.
Good.
She'll have a bit of relief. Yes.
Good.
But it's obviously pleasing her that her domestic side is improving, because it does seem, I never pry, but it does seem to me as if she's had a rough time domestically. So getting back on track is, we must be happy for her.
Well, I am happy. It's not a seam, it's a defo. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, she shared off TV, offline. She shared with me, as I'm sure she has with you, some bloody horror stories.
Yes, she's not had a happy domestic
I mean,
scene.
it's always baffled me. I mean, I'm no saint, no man is, but I just don't understand the men that she's encountered. I don't understand how they can be like they have been to her, or any woman. You know,
Yeah,
there's just no there's no justification for it. There's no excuse for it. There's not even an
not at all.
explanation. You know, it's pure, violent, coercive conduct.
Yes, weakness of the weakness of the man.
But it's all about control. It's not about the person who's suffering. It's about the control that the violent and coercive man is exerting upon her. Or it could be a him in a gay relationship. I don't know. But it could happen in any relationship where you've got somebody who is instinctively coercive
Yes,
and
controlling.
controlling. And I have learned over the years with my cases that control can take so many different methods, so many different aspects. I mean, I remember watching a documentary years ago, and it was this still young woman who had, in the end, divorced her husband. And one of the things he would do was he would buy himself, because they didn't have a great deal of money, he would buy himself something for himself, but he was always buying something useless for her as well. So that in his mind, he was justifying his purchase by saying, well, I've got you something as well. And in the end, she said, this was his way, in part, there were other aspects, of controlling me. Because what he was doing was, he was spiking my guns. I couldn't complain about what he has wasted our money on, because he's bought me something as well.
Yeah.
And I was always rather fascinated by that, because it's not always as it seems or you expect it to be. There are so many different ways it is imposed by the controller. And these relationships are incredibly difficult to get rid of.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you always think that it's suggested today that don't worry about getting married because you can walk away from it. It's not that easy.
No, you don't have to be married either. It's the nature of the
No.
relationship and the people in it that matters.
Yeah.
It's not whether you're married or just shacked up with each other, or even not shacked up with each other. You know, one of Susie's debacles did not involve her living with somebody, but she was still controlled and dealt with very badly. No, it's a mindset I really don't understand, I have to say.
No, I don't. It's because we don't and can't think like those people. Is whatever flaw
Well, that's
they.
right. It's the same with sexual offences. You know, from the so-called minor sexual touching, indecent assault, up to rape and worse. Again, it's unimaginable to me.
Yeah.
Unimaginable.
And how did you handle those sort of cases in your
with difficulty. In the end, I stopped doing them. Shortly before I first left Chambers to do a job before going back to Chambers for the last couple of years of my career, I stopped doing them, both defending and prosecuting. They became more and more complicated. They kept bringing in legislation that was supposed to protect the complainants, but didn't really. But you had to go through every hoop possible. The CPS department that dealt with the sex cases became Byzantine in the dealings with them. They were just ultra demanding, and I, as a barrister of then 40 years experience, I had to speak to a 22-year-old clerk to get permission to do a certain thing. We weren't allowed to make our decisions. And I had cases where the complainant had backed off, not turning up, or even worse, came to court because she was in fear of being arrested. This is the complainant, because she was summoned to attend, and then said, I'm not going into court. I don't care whether you drag me in, which we would never do anyway. And even if you did, I wouldn't say a word. I'm not following this case up. So I went in, I told the judge, and he said, well, because he used to be an experienced he said, well, get onto the CPS, Mr. Meredith. Tell them that my view is that I'm not dragging this witness into court, and see what they say. Okay, so I give them a ring, tell them the situation. Proceed, Mr. Meredith, proceed. I said, look, I haven't got any evidence. Yeah, I can't do it via hearsay. She's physically here. She's refusing to say anything. And the judge has said he's not going to force her into court. Proceed, Mr. Meredith, or I'll be contacting your head of chambers. Well, the irony was I was the head of chambers. That was the funny bit. I said, okay, speak to me on a different level then, because I am the head of chambers. Right, proceed. So I had to go through the expensive rigmarole of swearing a jury in with defence counsel, the defendant in the dock behind me, go through the rigmarole of not calling the complainant, not being able to read the interviews apart from the defendants, and then at half-time, defence counsel makes a submission of no case to answer, which I can't resist. Judge said, right, submission of no case, upheld, not guilty verdicts entered, off you go. Now, the judge afterwards said to me, who is the reviewing lawyer on this case? So I gave him the name, and he said, I'm going to ring this person, because that was the most ridiculous fiasco I've ever seen in my court. And apparently he did ring this person, and he got nowhere. Basically, I don't care who you are, was the response. Judge whoever, we are the CPS, we conduct cases as we choose, not how you choose. And Mr. Meredith was instructed to proceed in all circumstances. And that was the last time I actually applied to come off what was called the rape list.
Yeah.
I'd had enough.
Did the CPS have to give a reason why they wanted to proceed?
Yeah, they said there's a case to answer, which was complete rubbish. There would have been a case to answer had the complainant gone into the witness box and her tapes had been played, but she wouldn't do it, and the CPS wouldn't accept it. Yeah. That's just one example. But after that, I came off the rape list because I'd had enough.
Yeah.
And I was doing myself no favors, because it's the best paid type of criminal work you can get in the Crown Court is sex. Any sex, particularly serious sex, is well paid, whether you prosecute or defend. But I just couldn't. I thought, sod the money. It's going to give me a nervous breakdown.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I came off the rate list. And then
Gosh.
because the sex stuff was my main type of work from the CPS, I shot myself in the foot twice, because you have to do so much work for them as an organisation to meet their terms and conditions. They have terms and conditions. And if you don't gross a certain amount of money per financial year, they are entitled to remove you as a prosecutor. And that's exactly what they did.
Good heavens.
So the last few years
I
of my practice, I was purely defence. Purely defence. But there we are.
That's shocking. One of the things that upsets me as a journalist, and particularly one that likes to see justice done, albeit perhaps my version of justice wouldn't fit with everybody, but is that the government agencies should not have the power that they seem to have, and that they should be as open to questioning as anybody else, but they're not.
No, the CPS are an extraordinarily monolithic organisation, and it's like something from the Soviet era.
Yeah.
There is no stopping of the buck. There is the Director of Public Prosecutions, and each CPS area has a Chief Crown Prosecutor. So the facade is there, but it's no more effective or valid to those with a complaint than Putin's regime. It's a facade.
And no sign of reform?
No. What they demand of the barristers who work for them is extraordinarily high. They expect blind loyalty, and if you criticise them, if this programme had been 5 years ago, and by chance one of their apparatchiks heard me and saw me making the comments I've now made, that would have been the end of me. I'd have been taken off the list within 24 hours. And I can cite examples of other members of my own chambers, one in particular who'll remain nameless, but who came within a whisker when he worked in London of becoming what's called Treasury Counsel, which is basically based at the Old Bailey, and you are the elite. You are the elite barrister prosecutors. And he missed it by a whisker. So he was that good. And when he was with Westgate, because he moved to Rottingdean, he's the most gentle of men. He's an absolute gent, this guy, right? He could charm the birds out the trees. But he had a disagreement with a CPS lawyer about whether a case, a bit like mine actually, whether a case should go ahead or not. And he'd had enough. And unusually for him, he put his foot down and said, look, I am speaking to somebody who, with respect, has no Crown Court experience. Only a year ago, I came within an inch of becoming Treasury Counsel. You now have the advantage of having me here in Sussex, and you're telling me what to do in an erroneous way, and he went ahead with what he wanted to do. They sacked him the following day.
Oh,
He is never prosecuted again.
That's outrageous.
It's true.
That is absolutely outrageous.
It is true, believe me, and it happens day in, day out. The hoops they put their barristers through. And of course, they've got their own in-house lawyers who are appalling, and they are real apparatchiks. They are just metronomes, robots.
Yes.
The successful prosecutors left in my old chambers are people of incredible patience and incredible dedication to the job, to put up with what they put up with. And they're not people that you would readily socialize with. They're not life and soul of the party people. They're really very, very dull. And they're dull in court, but they do the job. And that's what it's come to. There's no room for flair or panache or adversarial brilliance anymore. There's just no room for it. The judges don't appreciate it. The current resident judge at Lewis has become the same, gone native as we call it. And all of this contributed to me retiring, Keith.
Yeah.
There was the knee disability, which was a real problem anyway, but I had no qualms at all.
This television station is basically its theme is freedom of speech, and I'm aware. I wasn't aware of the CPS, but I'm aware of other government departments, and for that matter, banks and so on, who are what I call untouchable.
Yes.
And that is totally unacceptable in a free society.
It is unacceptable, but it will remain like it is, because it has the blessing of the establishment, doesn't it?
Yes. I mean, actually, I have to say that I think that the NHS, the local surgeries, have become like that. And I actually do have a go at them, and I name names. It does absolutely no good whatsoever.
No.
They are untouchable. The only thing is, Philip, I take the view that we do have a certain moral authority, and that it drip, drip, drip sometimes starts to erode the stone. And if you keep on often enough and long enough, you do get through. But it's a war of attrition. And normally people who enter into wars of attrition need deep pockets.
I'm afraid that's right.
Mm.
I think I told you the true story of Oliver's godmother, who's 73, who went to her gym and they couldn't take her blood pressure because both her ankles and her wrists were so swollen. They couldn't take an accurate reading. She tried to make an appointment with her GP in that condition, right? She's already got a weak heart. She's had 2 stents put in her heart over the years on medication. The soonest appointment they can offer her is 5 weeks. And that's the same surgery that I use. 5 weeks in that condition. And I found myself saying to her, Laurie, go to A&E. It's not pleasant, but you'll get seen.
Yes.
Now, whether she's done that, I don't know. Knowing her, because she's pretty stubborn, she probably won't. But that's what she needs to do. That's the only way she'll get seen.
Yes,
They'll actually
that's
see
right.
her.
There is one other way, is fall down. Fall down. There is a new department called the emergency something, and it's only 2 years of age. It's only established 2 years ago. But not only do they turn up very quickly, but I've never seen such speed with the very next day after they came to see me. I had an occupational therapist. I've now got railings so that
yes, I remember this. I remember
yes,
this.
they work very quickly. Now, getting a permanent carer that's suddenly that goes back into the civil service ranks, and I've had one letter, and nothing has happened. It's back to 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks before you get anything done. But it is possible, and therefore it is worth continuing to agitate for change.
Well, the irony is, unless you go into the surgery to make hell, play hell face to face, and then they tell you you're being abusive and threatening, and they start to call the police. In our surgery, there are signs everywhere. We will not tolerate abuse.
Yes.
You will be prosecuted.
Yes.
I mean, a friend of mine whose mum, now dead, lives just around the corner, he rang up our surgery when his mum kept falling, like sadly you do, but she was also badly Alzheimer's, badly. And he wanted to get her an appointment. Now, he isn't registered at our surgery because he lives near Bognor Regis, but she is. Anyway, he was told something ridiculous like 12 weeks or something. So he complained and said, look, my mum is 89. She's got Alzheimer's. She's all over the place. She's falling down the stairs. Can she have an appointment, please? Mr. So-and-so, you are threatening me. You are abusing me. I'm going to hang up and I may well report you to the police. And the receptionist hung up.
Well, I publicly have taken the view, and this station takes the view, is that works two ways. They must not abuse the patient.
And, of course not.
And actually, I've now met an increasing number of people who feel that they've been abused by their surgeries and are fighting back. And the surgery has got all the power at the moment. But, it's why do people protest?
I'll be back in a minute.
Look at those idiots, yes. And in fact, why do people protest? The answer is that they're not getting satisfaction, they're not getting anywhere by being reasonable. And so therefore they become unreasonable. And the establishment are onto that, as Philip says, signs all over the place is we will not accept abuse of our staff. And that used to be, and probably still is, because I don't travel on the train very much anymore. That used to be the British Rail or the various rail companies. We will not tolerate abuse of our staff. But, it works two ways. I will not be abused by them. And how many times have you had somebody, a rail worker, come and stick his nose in the carriage and say, all out, all out. We've got to change you, and somebody says, oh, no, again. That's abuse. And it's about time that these people who are establishment people, management people, by all means, I support their stance. Their staff must not be abused, but the staff must not abuse the customer.
Well, I can give you an example of many years ago. I was, believe it or not, I was doing a case on the Isle of Wight, which is a hell of a commute. Anyway, I get the ferry back from Ryde to the harbour, Portsmouth Harbour. Trains cancelled, lots of trains cancelled, big problems with the signals, coaches and buses laid on. So I wait in this queue, and there was this very stressed, I mean, really stressed railway worker, supposedly organising people onto these buses. Anyway, I'm in the queue, and unbeknown to him, this family ahead of me said, "Go on, sir," because I was in my suit and stuff. "Go ahead, we're in no rush." I thought, it's really kind of you. Get to the door, and this bloke said to me, "Why are you jumping the fucking queue? This is a railway worker, right? Why are you jumping the fucking queue?" Definitely because I was wearing a suit and he just thought I was an arse. I said, that family back there have very kindly said to me, "Go ahead." "No, they haven't." I said, "Go and check." "No, I haven't got time to check." So in the end, I just got on the bus and he's chunnering away. But that's how I was treated.
Yes. I mean, I've come across that, particularly in about 2 years ago when there were lots and lots of strikes. They failed to manage the queues, and there are always people that will take advantage. That I grant them, but they treat everybody, and 9 times out of 10 they just look to see if there is somebody that they don't like.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Another example is I was on one of the old slam door. This shows how long ago it was. I was coming home from Lewis Crown Court, but on the way, this is the irony. On the way, I was going to a CPS function. So the idea was to get off at Brighton, walk up to the then CPS headquarters, go to this function, and then go home. Anyway, how I managed it, I don't know, but I lost my return ticket and I didn't have time to get a new one. Get on the train, and this incredibly officious, because in those days they had, you may remember, they called them revenue protection officers. They weren't ticket inspectors or guards, they were RPOs. And obviously they had the power to penalty fare you. Anyway, this bloke spots me. I'm the only one in the carriage in a suit and a tie, you know, the well-heeled one. Straight over to me, "Ticket, please." Didn't ask anybody else, "Ticket, please." So I said, "I'm sorry, I haven't got my ticket. I've mislaid it." "Oh, yeah, tell me another one." I said, "Look, I travel these trains every day, week in, week out, and I see young yobs being ignored and allowed to travel for free because you know you're going to get nowhere with them." I said, "You are picking on me because I'm in a suit. Yeah? If I was in some shell suit and looked scruffy, you wouldn't bother with me, would you? That's not the point. Now I need your address." "No. And I'm not paying a penalty fare." Well, I get off at Brighton, he follows me off, and he calls the transport police. Over the copper comes. These are in the days when there was, it's all cafes now, but there was a transport police HQ on Brighton Station on the forecourt.
Right.
Copper turns up, "What's going on?" I explained to him, and I said, "The irony of this, officer, is that I am a prosecution barrister and I'm on my way to a CPS function. You might be as well. And yet I'm being, buttonholed by this officious man who won't believe a genuine story compared to the yobs he lets go day in, day out." So the copper has a word with the RPO, who then backs off and says, well, why didn't you tell me all of that in the first place? So it was thanks to the transport officer that I avoided a penalty fare. I mean, and even some of the fellow passengers were supporting me in the carriage. They were saying to him, this man's got a point. You know, we all hate fare dodgers, but why does he need to dodge a silly fare? Look at him. You know?
Yeah.
Because normally I would have had a season ticket on me.
No, they let their class prejudice suddenly come out.
You tell me, mate. They really do.
Yeah.
They really do. Again, huge relief that I no longer have to use the trains.
Yes, me too. I always enjoyed train travel. But tell me this, Philip. Am I being foolish in wondering about the planners in the transport field? Two instances. First of all, on a bank holiday Sunday, when everybody wants to get out and use the bus, they keep to a Sunday schedule. So that instead of 5 buses an hour, they are now reduced to 1 every half hour, and they don't change it, even though the volume of traffic is going to change. And secondly, you talk about the old slam doors. Is in the days of the slam door, they used to have buffet cars.
They did.
And in the morning, we would get on and get our bacon sarnie and stand all the way to London.
Yeah.
In the evening, we would get on and have our gin and tonic and stand all the way back
I remember it
to Lewis.
Well.
Yes, in fact, the moment that they were privatized and they changed the trains, they didn't have any buffet. They then took away the table service, and people started to complain. No wonder, where's the common sense?
There is no common sense at all. They were a huge miss, those buffet cars. They kept me going for years. And I made many friends through them.
Yes.
I befriended the buffet people, the caterers, one in particular, who then became a ticket man up at my local station, now retired. And they were invaluable. We used to have Christmas parties on ours.
Yes, indeed. I mean, coming back from
we used to have birthday parties for people. We were that regular. Yes. We were that, known on the cars.
Yeah.
So as you say, they then get rid of the cars. They then start these stupid. Do you remember the trolleys? The stupid down the aisle trolleys.
Yes, that's right.
Charging a fortune for Ersatz coffee and tea. Terrible.
Yes.
They then get rid of them because they're a security risk. They're a blockage, health and safety risk, as well as being totally unprofitable, I'm sure. And that's it. Nothing. So it's bonkers. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
It saddens me that modern travellers are missing out.
Yes.
On the camaraderie of the buffet cars.
Well, I can relate a little story to you, but it's about 10 years ago now. But there is an award-winning buffet, little bistro on Lewis Station called the Runaway.
Oh,
and
the Runaway is brilliant.
Absolutely. Well, as the company that was running the station at the time tried to get rid of it.
I know.
There was I actually was partly responsible for helping to organize a protest. And the protest was so huge and so successful that they actually backed off. But they wanted to put one of these horrible chains in. And
did.
why on earth? Yeah,
Which they've now done up above.
have
I
they?
don't know whether it's Starbucks or Nero, but at the street level, if you look to your left, you know it's a Costa.
Yes.
There's a Costa.
Yeah, well,
So
Costa has gone and somebody else has taken over. But you're quite right.
Well, I remember signing a petition. I remember being asked as a regular in the Runaway to sign a petition.
Yes, that's right.
Which I willingly did. And they were obviously very worried.
Yeah, I have to give full credit, and I do actually, because he's become a pal to Norman Baker, the MP at the time, who was a very fine constituency MP, and he helped organise that petition, and it was successful. And because he was transport minister for a while, he was able to talk to the bosses at whoever it was, Southern, and his advice was, if I was you, I would give up, because Lewis has a reputation for getting the way of the consumer and not the operator. And in fact, of course, shortly before that, Green King, who owned this pub, and we must be very careful because they've been very decent to us. But Green King were trying to take over the Lewis Arms and
yes,
get.
I remember. I
Harvey's
remember
house.
signing a petition there.
Yeah,
and then
we have a very good track record of petitions.
And everybody boycotted the Lewis Arms because it stopped selling Harveys.
That's right. Yeah. So you take on Louisians at your peril.
Obviously so. Now, Keith, who is Kit coming on?
Kit is coming on a little later, and I had hoped for Mark maybe, but it's now 9:25, and he's not here. But Mark, I know, has had a few problems the last few days, so it's possible that he's held up. In fact, I'm using these days to experiment with inviting whomsoever to join the fixtures.
Yes, well, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so that people can do things according to their schedule and not to a fixed one. But there are some people who are. I mean, for instance, Harry Atherton is because he comes in from Normandy, needs a fairly relatively fixed time. But also, Harry is a very, very powerful character. And when he gets together with you, it becomes one of the most powerful programs that that we have.
You play your part, Anchorman. Look, I can't stay on any longer.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me this morning.
Well, I always do if I can, just to give you a bit of support.
I know. And people say, well, what the hell do you talk about? We've been going now for almost a year, in fact, possibly over a year, and we always find things to talk about. And that's the beauty of Mirador. We never quite know. We sit down together and something has happened in the news, or something has happened to us as individuals, or that it's just something that has occurred to us. And we have marvelous chats, sometimes going back into the past, sometimes looking at the future, and sometimes expressing hugely unsatisfactory opinions.
Well, no, our opinions are sound. It's the opinions of what we're talking about that are unsound.
Yes.
It's the subjects that, I mean, I'm going to have to sign off, but I will now probably get a writ from the CPS for defamation. I have got a solid defence. It's called the defence of truth. Because everything I've said happened and happens.
Right. Well,
I'll bid
that's
you
the other.
farewell, and I'll see you in the morning.
Okay. Just before you go, that's the other strength of Mirador, is there is nothing fake.
Oh no! What? No, there isn't anything fake.
No.
It's
have a good rest of the day, Philip.
You too, Keith. See you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye. There we go. Philip, there's some interesting things came out this morning, and it just shows how we really need to very really fight our corner, because it's nobody is helping the consumer. I mean, there are organizations, but it's not it's not often that the runes are with us, that we have to fight against an establishment that is very self-satisfied, that invokes all sorts of laws. I mean, one thing that appalled me, and I can't get an answer from anybody about it, except I looked up the legislation, and sure enough, it's true, is that, and this came good in, or came to light during lockdown, is that local councils can actually look into your bank account to try and recoup anything that they believe that they're owed from things like council tax. That is appalling. That's absolutely appalling. And then our leaders turn around and say, what, do you want to go back to being like Russia? We are like Russia. We are not at all safe from the prying eyes of the state, whether that be through CCTV, whether it be through the internet, whether it be through legislation which is as deliberately bits and pieces, or whatever. Now, if we really want controversial views, guess who's here? Good morning.
Morning, Keith. How are you?
Not too bad. I wish you could have joined us while Philip was here, because we were having a go at the trains, and I know that you ride the trains regularly.
Well, do you know what, Keith? That's very coincidental, because yesterday I caught the train down to Birmingham from Stoke-on-Trent. Fine going down, 2.5 hours coming back for a 30-minute journey. Signal failure, and then something wrong with the points, and diabolical.
Yeah, it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
And it's a 30-minute journey. It's a 30-minute journey, Keith.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think that this threat by Labour to renationalise the railways will improve anything.
No, I don't either. I don't think it'll have any effect whatsoever. They just certainly Avanti trains, who are the trains that I use, and cross-country trains, who I think almost probably, certainly up here, perhaps not down south, but up here, are the main two train companies. They're just always late. I just noticed on the board at New Street Station yesterday, there were 5 trains that were cancelled, one down to London, one to Cheltenham, and it was all because they didn't have enough train crew. So they don't have enough train crew. And then And then of all things, you've got train drivers, on £60,000 a year, more than a nurse, more than a teacher, who are striking because they want more money. And there's something out of kilter, really. It doesn't seem sort of right. And I look at a friend of mine who's a teacher, and he works so hard, and he's in his 50s, and he's still, I think he's on about 38 or 40,000 pounds, and these lads and lasses are on 60,000, and they're looking for 65,000.
Yeah,
and it's just, I wouldn't complain if they were bang on time. A friend of mine said he'd just come back from France, and he said that over there, he said, if the train's due to get in at 10 o'clock, it gets in at 1 minute to 10. And if it's to arrive at 11 o'clock, it arrives at bang on 11. There's no messing. He said it was, I think he traveled he did a 3-hour journey, and it worked out to about £7. That was all. And my 30-minute journey from Stoke to Birmingham was £23.
Yes, I know. It's something rotten in the state of Denmark when it comes to our trains. But Mark, people still rail against Margaret Thatcher's treatment of the unions. But can you imagine if she hadn't had the clear out in 1980, wasn't it? What on earth would it be like today?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, this is a cleared out union.
I only thought last week, Keith, because they were on strike. When I was going to come down and see you, if you remember rightly, the trains were on strike.
Yes.
And 3 days, and all 3 days would have affected me. So I couldn't have come down. I couldn't have gone back. If I come down on Friday to see you, I couldn't have gone back on Saturday. And they were striking Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And you just, as you say, I actually thought then bring back Maggie, because for all the faults that she had, she was strong with the unions and sorted it out. So I'm sure we wouldn't be in this state if she was around now. But they just run. This has been going on for 2 years, Keith.
Yes.
People are sick of it.
The thing is that she took them head on and won the not only the battle, the war, but all power to the elbow of the union leaders, because they obviously got together and said, we're not going to win the head-on battle, let's be insidious. Yeah, and that's what they've been, is a bit here and a bit there, and and we'll stick dig our heels in on this because they can't fight back, and as a consequence, we're right back in their grip.
Yeah, no, I agree. To think certainly the train strikes have been going on for 2 years now is amazing, and all it does is inconvenience the general public. That's all. And actually, I think that particularly when they're doing this at weekends, it must be affecting the hospitality industry, because people, certainly from here, a lot of people go down with their kids to London, spend the weekend in London, will stay at a hotel, will go out for meals, and they're not doing it. And and because the trains are also often, certainly the west coastline that I'm on, because they're cancelled so frequently, I think people say, well, I'm not even going to bother trying to travel, because I might get down there, but I'm not. A bit like when I was due to see you last Friday or Friday before last, I thought, no point coming down and I'm stuck and I can't get back till Monday, and I'm stuck in London for Saturday and Sunday. So you just don't do it. It disrupts.
No.
It disrupts everything at the end of the day.
And I mean, even though there's just 4 of us, is that requires some coordination. And once the coordination is being punctured, it's impossible to, well, not impossible, but a hell of a strain to redo it. It's not as if you can say, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is, and the other thing is that everyone that I talk to that's gone on trains in other parts of Europe, particularly, I met a young guy yesterday, funny enough, from Denmark, and that's why I went to Birmingham. And he was saying that he caught a train from where he lives in Copenhagen to the airport, and it was equivalent of £2. And he was then going to have to get the train from Birmingham to London, and it was £96. And he said, I don't get it. His plane ticket from Copenhagen to Birmingham on the plane was £34.
Well, actually the Moguls on the continent can't make any money in the trains over there, so they actually come over and buy up our trains, and this is where they're sticking the argument.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely bonkers, but it does. I think but like some of this young guy that I met yesterday, it was linked to the School of Innovation, and he runs he's another young guy, Keith, very entrepreneurial, 29-year-old guy, called Jacob Nielsen, and he runs a company called Uni Helper, and that's him there. And what they do is they've realised that group work is really important. It's sort of relevant to us because that was really why you, me, Paul, and Phil were going to get together, because actually getting together face to face is a really great way of sorting things out, better than doing it as we are online. Right. And what he's done with another clever guy is he's put together some sort of computer system called an algorithm. I don't really know what an algorithm is, but I pretended that I did know what it was. I acted that I knew what I was talking about, Keith, as normal. I knew nothing.
Right. That's right.
They've devised this clever computer system via this algorithm. What it does is it takes a group of students and they input information into the students about their age, their interests, those sorts of things, family commitments, etc. And then they put them into groups. It automatically puts them into groups, and they work as groups. And what they found is that trying to put, say, 5 19-year-olds with 2 40-year-olds doesn't really work that well. You need to have like and like often start off with to get group work going. But it's really worked well, and what it's done is that it's the bit of research they've done is that it's really when they've sort of done some questionnaire work, it's really reduced the dropout rate because students are talking to each other, they're solving problems together. It's also helped with their success rates because they've been attending regularly and getting in these little groups, and they've been supporting each other rather than waiting for a tutor to support them. They've been supporting each other. And the other thing that has helped a lot is and I think it's Mental Health Awareness Month this month. It's really helped with people's mental health because they've had this opportunity rather than sitting at home. No, you're in the pub, Keith, which is you get to it. But sitting at home like this, you don't see anybody. When you're on here, it's not the same. And I must admit
it's not.
Is it? It's just
it's not.
You don't get the same dynamics. You can't read people's body language.
That's right. As a matter of fact, I was leaning down to put in a plug this morning, and I looked up, and of course, there's nobody here except me. And I thought of the movie, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner.
It is.
Tell me, would this group be one that we should be talking to?
Yeah, I think so. He's a very interested in the work they're doing, and in fact, it can sort of be, he's working with a couple of universities. Denmark was interesting. I've never been. Have you been to Denmark, Keith? Do you?
Yes, I have. Only once.
Sounds a lovely country. All their universities they've only got 8 universities in the country, and they're all publicly funded and publicly driven. And he said that there was no real interest to change things because they still get the same amount of money coming in. So they won't change it. And even trying to implement this group work, which he's really demonstrated really good things. As it's certainly at the end, there's been lots of issues around mental health, mental well-being, and he's also found that a lot of these groups, once they finish their sort of work, actually then have a social time. So they'll go to the pub or they'll go to a cafe, and they form sort of lasting relationships.
Yeah.
And it's good. The other thing that he found that was interesting was that actually, once you've done the group work, if you then change the groups, once people have been used to engaging together, you can introduce 2 40-year-olds with 4 20-year-olds because they've been used to working in groups. They open up a lot more. They're willing to talk, and he was saying that they learnt a lot from each other. He was saying that they'd put a lady and a man who were in their 40s with some 20-year-olds, and what those two learnt was really about IT, social media, those sorts of things. But what the 20-year-olds got from the 2 of them was life, work ethic. They're all the things that we've talked about. So I'm going to. It would be, I think, really interesting to get him on, Keith.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe I'll ask him if he can come on next Tuesday, if it's all right with you, and he can just talk us through a little, because actually it's sort of transferable to lots of other areas at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
But it was interesting because, particularly for education here, where universities now are being funded on, retention, really important, retaining students achieving, and then graduate outcomes. What in a group work, what he was saying was group work also helps with all those soft skills, the sorts of things we're always talking about, Keith. Communication skills.
Absolutely.
Timekeeping, all those sorts of things. So in a group, you do that. Whereas when you're sat at home in front of a machine, you don't do that.
Well, it may be that Paul Cheeseman would be interested in talking to them. I mean, I've identified that when it comes to television, we actually are better than the established. Without any money at all, we're better than the established television operations. But we're lousy managers. We administrators. So we identified that. We brought Paul Cheeseman in, and the poor bugger has looked at it, and I think he suddenly realised the monumental task that he's got. But it's amazing where we could take this if we got good administration, which we are taking steps through Paul, but he can't do it all on his own. And we're very typical of this sort of size of organization is that the administrator says, "I want you to do this," and we say, "Yeah," but we've got to go and broadcast. Yeah,
we know what we're doing. We've done it this way for years. No, you're right. I think that's the big bit about moving things on that next step, isn't it? You can carry on doing what we're doing, and like you, I think it is very effective, and I think
it's becoming more and more effective. I mean, Friday is our jamboree, as I now call it,
Yes,
is
it's
the
good.
most remarkable television. And I'm having people say that they tune in on Friday to watch that because they first of all, none of us know what's going to happen next, and secondly, such powerful thinking comes out, and the interaction of us all is so great that we without realizing it, creating a new type of television that is stunning. I
Yeah.
actually watched that program back, and I know what's on it.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, it's interesting, Keith. I was on Question Time, came to Stoke-on-Trent last Thursday, and I was invited into the audience. And it was Fiona Bruce was really good. I have to say, she was very good, but it was absolute rubbish because it didn't address any. Now, I thought what it would do as a program would it be really Stoke-on-Trent focused, and I was all ready to ask a question about, how they were going to help bring businesses into Stoke, because Stoke is the monkey dust. Have you heard of monkey dust, Keith? Do you know what monkey dust is, Keith?
No.
It's not that.
Right. Yes.
It's a synthetic drug that they put in a pipe and they smoke it, and it sends them up the wall.
Right.
And Stoke-on-Trent's the centre for this shocking drug.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's more potent than heroin, and it sends them a little bag, sort of this big, is £10. They call it a 10 bag, and it's £10. And they put it in one of these pipe things that's got water in it, and then they smoke it that way, and it makes them, they're off their heads. They're running down the high street with no shirts on. Last week there was a guy who's often in Stoke, and we've got big, tall, maybe 60-foot lamppost, and he was at the top of the lamppost, on the lamppost, screaming, shouting, 2 fire engines, police car, ambulance. What a waste of resources to get him down. And so I wanted to ask those questions, but we ended up talking about, and I know it's important, but we ended up talking about Gaza and Israel and those sorts of things that they're known. Fiona Bruce only gets through 5 questions, so the only question that was of any relevance was on levelling up. And I felt like saying, you want to watch Mirador TV, because we deal with real and every time it's different, but I assumed that it would all just be about Stoke-on-Trent, because that's what it was meant to be, and
why it's there.
That's why they bring it there. But there were questions on Gaza. There were questions on, and I know the NHS is important, but there was a big question on the NHS that went on for hours. But it was generic about the NHS. Everywhere in the country, the NHS is underfunded. But it was very disappointing, and I thought, waste of time. Really, it was a big long. It started had to be there for 6, and then
what a pity, because it's the concept is so good.
Really good, yeah, and she is brilliant. Fiona Bruce is absolutely excellent, and we got
Fiona Bruce, isn't it?
Yeah,
Fiona Bruce. She's one of the more credible broadcasters.
And she came in before it all started and chatted in a very informal sort of way to everyone in the audience. But it was, I think the other problem was it was full of politicians who just like the sound of their own voice. So Lisa Nandy was on. She was non-stop yak. They had another lady on. She was non-stop yak. They were arguing with each other. So Fiona Bruce had to keep separating them, and it really got nowhere. And it was just political claptrap.
Yeah, it is. It's a pity. It's a waste. Mark, somebody contacted me at your behest, and I said, "Is this from you?" And you said that you would chat to me. Who is that contacting me? Do you know?
Yes, he's a guy that that actually, Keith, after we changed things at London College, he came to London College and he was teaching graphic design.
All right.
He's called D. Warburton, and actually he now teaches at Waltham Forest College, which actually is one of the few outstanding colleges in the country. He's got a scholarship, or he's applying for a scholarship to do some research on sort of TV production and that sort of thing. And I said to him, I told him about Mirador TV and the wizard that is Keith Hayes, and I said, if you Keith is just a font of knowledge on broadcasting and the media, and has been in it 50, 60 years, and has been all over the world doing it. So I think it was just to initiate a discussion and have a bit of a chat with you, Keith, and sort of perhaps use you as part of his research project.
Yes.
But
I'll respond to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because he wanted to. It's very relevant to what we're just talking about. Question time, really. He was saying that everything's the same. And it doesn't really matter whether you watch. If you watch the ITV news or you watch the BBC news or Sky News, it's all the same sort of stuff, and often doesn't address some really pertinent issues. And I was saying, the Mirador does address some real issues and is contentious and doesn't sort of have to be politically correct all the time. So that was it, really, Keith. That he seemed he's a very nice guy. He was at London College in 20. I think you finished then, Keith. I think it was about 2016 that he
yes. I think I've lost track really of when I was there, but I think I just finished. Yes,
I think you and I would work together from 2013 to the beginning of 2016.
16, yeah.
It was that period, and he came midway through, and then I left. I worked. He worked for about a year, and then I left London College because I moved to Hounslow. And I couldn't do the commute, but but he was developed. He sort of was into graphic design then, but has moved more into media now, and I think he teaches media to students. And I was saying to him, you might want to get the students to look at Mirador and the sorts of things that Keith has developed in Mirador. And yeah, you're right, and it might be interesting for him to talk to Paul as well about development, and could be useful. It's interesting, isn't it, Keith, because people come out from people that you've not seen for years and years and years, and it's really interesting how you meet up again.
Yes, indeed.
Think, gosh, that's what was that, 30 years ago nearly.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, you think, good grief, it's detrimental, but people still remember things, and I think it's good. I was saying, I think I've said it before, but I used to, we've become a lot more politically correct now, but when I started lecturing back in the early 1980s. I was at what was Manchester Polytechnic. Do you remember the good old Polytechnic days? And I was at Manchester Polytechnic, and I was lecturing big groups, 150 biology students, what I used to do was I used to have a bit of a joke and a gag session. So we'd tell some jokes at the beginning, and the students would tell some jokes, and my lecture was always full, mainly because it was funny and I got them telling jokes and that sort of thing. And another guy used to follow me on, who was a lovely guy, biochemist, And of course, when I left, all the students left, and he was left with about 12 students. And he said, Mark, I don't understand how, when you're in here, you've got 150 students, and when I come in, there's only 12. And I said to him, well, they have a bit of fun, they enjoy it.
Yes.
And you couldn't do it now, Keith, because they were a bit racy, they were a bit sexist, they were a bit rude. But the students loved them, and they used to shout, let's have a gag session, Mark.
Yeah.
And we'd have a gag session. And I took we used to take students on a field trip to a place called Woodchester Park, which is in Stroud in Gloucestershire, the most beautiful place. We'd take 40 at a time. It sort of goes back to this group work thing in many ways. Take 40 at a time, at Easter time in the first year of their degree. And we go for a week. It was very rustic, not palatial, but we get them up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go out, listen to the bird song, identify the birds singing, see the badgers all feeding, etc. But I used to, we'd finish in the evening, and then there was a pub called the Rose and Crown just down the road, and I was the driver of the minibus, and it wasn't a minibus for people to sit in; it was a minibus for all the equipment. But we used to fit 40 students packed into the back of this minibus. And they'd say to me, swerve, Mark, swerve. And I'd swerve this minibus because it's down little country lanes. And all the students would fall against the side. And that was back in 1983. And I met a couple of students. And the first thing they say to me is, I remember that field trip, Mark, to Woodchester Park. What a laugh it was. It was such fun. But you couldn't do it now, Keith, could you? Because of these things. No. If someone filmed you doing that, swerving down.
I don't put yourself down, because one of the things about the London College was your leadership as principal. I mean, you made things exciting there. And it was fun, and the regular people were well known for being very stodgy and so on, and people avoided their lectures. I think that one of the things that the University of Innovation is intriguing me is, with your leadership, is it will be fun. We'll be able to get fun right throughout throughout the entire university, even though it'll be scattered around the country, and for that matter, eventually scattered around the world. How are we doing with that, by the way?
Yeah, that part of this meeting yesterday in Birmingham was I met with this new guy. We're just trying to put the bits of the jigsaw puzzle together so that we can so we've got enough information. Because one thing that the challenging bit is that we want to go for what's called degree awarding powers, and in order to demonstrate that, you normally need a track record. So if you remember at London College, we'd got a track record of running a higher national diploma, and then we went to the University of Derby, if you remember rightly, and started running their degree. Right. So we did the HND in journalism. And then we started running the degree, and we got a track record. So we got something to hang our hat on, your hat on. But at the end of the day, the School of Innovation doesn't have any track record. There's a sartorial elegant Matt coming in here.
Good morning, Declan.
There you go. Morning.
There's our instructor for those people who want to be a publican.
Very good, Declan. You're looking very elegant in your shorts. It's pouring with rain here.
Well, it was raining here earlier.
Yes, a bit dull. How's the pub trade?
Ups and downs.
Ups and downs. Yes, it's a challenge, isn't it?
It is. It's never easy.
He's got a chef who's ill at the moment.
Oh dear.
and is the sight of Declan with the frying pan doing eggs and bacon for his regular customers is a sight to behold.
Jack of all, yeah. Good jack of all trades. It's very good. Yeah. So the so that's the bit. So we've got to put together something, because this has to go to what's called the Office for Students, which is sort of the government regulator, and with no track record,
Right.
you've got to demonstrate you've got everything in place in order to, you can't just do it. And obviously, if we go, there's sort of two parts to it. One is what's called taught degree awarding powers, so we can award our own degree. So the School of Innovation degree in innovation, for example. But then we want to go for university status as well. That will most probably will be the next stage, maybe 2025, 6. But there's a lot of paperwork to put together, and like everything, obviously the other bit is that students will pay via their student loan and via their student fee. So the organisation also has to demonstrate that it's financially secure, because if it went bankrupt, how would the students get their money back, etc. So that's why Young Will is generating the money side. So we've got about 1.6 million now, and that should be enough to
Really? Wow.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? 1.6 million he's raised from venture capital.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Well, we're raring to go here, and I sent you a little note about the Shelley's hotel. I keep driving past it on my mobility scooter and looking at it, and each time I peer in, it would be so ideal if we could persuade somebody with a lot of dosh to buy it and start it as the very first. And I mean, actually, I've scoured the internet. We would be the very first. What have I called it? Training studio, television training, media training studio. Much like the training hospitals, and it would be ideal for that and a great start. And what a great PR stunt for somebody. Yeah. So if you do get a chance to talk to the beneficiary,
well, I sent that link, that information, along with a note to Tim Martin to say I think this would make a brilliant Wetherspoons, and we could combine the School of Innovation area, and as you say, we could. There's no reason why we can't in the School of Innovation that we can't have hubs that specialise, and we might say, okay, let's specialise in Lewes in media, journalism, that sort of artistic side of things, and have a hub that is not lots of different things. And the more I've been thinking it through, the more I thought, it would be good to have an engineering hub, but whatever fits with either the local economy or what's already going on. So as Mirador is already functioning really effectively in Lewes, and there will be lots of people, both young people and mature, that will be interested in media, journalism, and there's all sorts of things that now you can wrap into that, Keith. I think I've talked about this thing called esports is just absolutely enormous. It's where I don't know if you've heard of it, but esports is where the old-fashioned computer games used to play stakes and ladder things, didn't you, Keith? And what were those things that used to boop 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 boop, and they fight each other and things? But you do it on a computer now through this thing called esports. It's where people play games against each other. So I might be playing against you in Lewes. We might be playing against someone in China. Might be playing against someone in Australia. and it's enormous. It's a multi-billion-pound setup. It's enormous in China. That's where it sort of originated from. But it's very interactive, and so those sorts of things, around
Yes.
the whole thing of media, that could be an interesting hub for Lewis. So that's what I suggested
Yes.
to him, was that we could do that. We could combine that we could have a sort of within it. I don't know how big it is, but we could sort of set up an esports centre as well, which is
Absolutely. I mean, Lewis at the moment is crying out for something like this to happen. I mean, it's been various things over the years, and it's a bit leaderless, rudderless at the moment. And it's, I mean, media certainly will is a key one. But the other thing that it's got 16 pubs, and they are all of a very high standard. I mean, there is no pub really that you would say don't go there. Some are better than others, but it seems to me that possibly the hospitality industry as such might well be suit nicely, because the White Hart, where we were based before, is going to open with a flourish, with a first-class restaurant in somewhere towards the end of the year. So already the feeling and the base is there, which would be ideal for Tim's area of expertise and operation.
Yeah, but hospitality is massive, and I certainly, and I don't know how Declan finds it, but finding people that will stay with you is critical, and having that knowledge of hospitality was big. And if you remember rightly, Keith, we used to run a HND in hospitality management at London College, and then we ran a degree. And in fact, the degree at London College, the most popular degree at London College now, is hospitality management.
Oh, really?
They've got about 500 students on hospitality management.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that that type of thing would go down extremely well, I think that we could actually almost dictate the things that we would do here based on local need, because the level is very high, but you just put your finger on it. The staff is deck staff. He's got 3 or 4 very decent people, but also he's got a number of people that ho hum, it's just another job, and they don't see it as a vocation. I'm always racing ahead of myself, as you know, but I'm quite anxious for us to get something going. And I know that I actually, as Philip says, you don't offer Keith your hand, because he'll pull you into the maelstrom, and you'll be away before you know it. But yes, I'm very anxious to get this going.
Well, what I'll do, I sent it through to him last week actually, because I wanted to put some things around it so that it made a bit of sense. I did say that I did fun enough mention hospitality, because I did think it was an area that he would particularly be interested in. I know that, but a bit like with Declan, if you offer the right sort of environment, and you offer the right sort of skills, and there's no reason why people couldn't be working in the hospitality industry and also study at the same time. You know, that
Yes.
might be a really good way
Yeah.
of them getting a degree. They might study, you know, if they're on in the evenings, they can study during the day. If they're on during the day, they can study in the evenings. You know, they could do things at weekends that sort of fit around at night. And I think the things that's changed in the hospitality industry, that it generally was low skill, low pay, but I think now the pay, they've got to pay, you know, the national wage, £11 odd, so it's quite reasonably paid. And I think most pubs now, are like the Black Horse, are nice places to work, nice environment, nicely done up. It's not sort of rough sort of stuff like it used to be.
No. I mean, as I say, the standard of pub in Lewes is very, very high. And in some ways, of course, it was devastated by lockdown, so that a lot of staff left. But the ownership is quite good. It is quite professional, and I think that you would find that they would embrace something like this. You know, with some enthusiasm, is if media and hospitality are the two things which ideal for Lewes to have as part of the university. Yeah,
and I think that's an area that we could grow. You know, you could grow incrementally.
absolutely.
And you know, and I think that, you know, there is no doubt about, certainly here, although there are a lot of pubs that are shutting down, which is a shame. But as you say, what I've noticed is the sort of level of professionalism, the high quality is the big thing that's changed. And actually, it's very competitive because they're all competing for in sort of the same sort of way. So thinking of ways in which they can, you know, bring themselves out. But and a lot, you know, what I notice is it's a lot about the staff that they employ. If they've got lovely, bubbly staff that are very bubbly and laughing and really good at interacting with the customers, that makes a big difference. If someone just pulls a pint, puts it on the table, but if someone chats and they've got good, you know, there's certainly down at my Wetherspoons, there's all the staff are absolutely brilliant, and there's two ladies who are particularly outstanding. I've written to Tim about them because they're particularly outstanding, because they're always happy. They're always got a big smile on their face, bouncing around the bar, through collecting glasses, doing that. Brilliant interpersonal skills. And so I think it sort of goes back a bit, Keith, to the beginning of this discussion, that, you know, you learn those skills by doing group work. And actually in the pub hospitality profession, I think really brilliant staff are key. And certainly, you know, I know that people, you know, actually there's one lady, she's called Kerry, down at Wetherspoons. When she comes into Wetherspoons, there's groups of regulars there. They all cheer, hooray! When because she's so great, and she buzzes round. She chats to everybody. So when she comes to collect the glass, she doesn't just collect the glass. She says, "How are you? What are you doing?" She's a big Birmingham City football fan, and they've just dropped out and she she works in Stoke, but lives in Stoke, but is a Birmingham fan. So she has really good rapport with the Stoke City fans. And it's really lovely. And I think that's a key part of this whole thing.
As Dex says, really, they're a community centre, and you have to treat them like that. I mean, he organises a stool ball team, which is a form of cricket, is a golf day, is the toad competitions, darts competitions. I mean, he's got a whole thing, and people just flock to play these things here. But the staff is terrific. The other day, my battery went on my scooter, and I know that they've got an outlet in the garden here, and Deck wasn't here. So I said to the staff, Deck lets me charge it in the garden. You sit there, Keith. I sat here. They went and collected my scooter, took it to the garden, plugged it in, got it going, came back, gave me the keys, said, there it is, and I just sat here.
You get a pint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it's critical. In fact, there's I think I've said this before, but a number of pubs up here are acting like community centres. So they open an hour early before they start serving for groups. So there's a dementia group that come, and there's about I think about 40 people now that come to a dementia group, and they come in at 10 o'clock before it opens at 11, and they have a coffee and have a chat, and then they put different things on. They've got a piano, and they play all old school music. Last time I went down there, they got a lady, and she played. Do you remember Mrs. Mills?
Yes.
Yeah, she played just like her. It was fantastic, and all these people with dementia, you could see them just their eyes lit up because they remembered Mrs. Mills. And it was that what was that back in the 70s, Keith? Wasn't it 60s, 70s? Mrs. Mills.
Well, nostalgia is very important.
Yeah.
Will you keep going? I just got to act as doorman.
No problem. No problem. Yes, I think that getting people engaged, getting people involved is really great. And if you can, and I think that's what pubs now really offer, is, as Keith rightly says, a community, something in the centre of the community that is really welcomed by people and is open to all. So all people can actually come. They can enjoy themselves, and now pubs are offering entertainment, not only just entertainment, a whole range of other activities that mean that people come in. They may not drink alcohol, but they'll have a cup of coffee. In Wetherspoons, you can get refills of cups of coffee. So it's not really always about drinking, but it's about enjoying yourself and having fun, which we have all the time, don't we, Keith?
Absolutely. And I mean, there we are, from anchorman to doorman.
Yes, just the first bit of the word changes. You've let in the staff, have you, Keith? So
he's a delivery man. I wanted to make sure that the pumps were full at
when you need your first pint.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, changing the topic for a moment, I can see behind you a couple of clocks.
Yes.
Now, have you got any other little? I was telling somebody the other day about the fountain pen and the abacus and the blotter. What else have you got there in your little armory?
That was good. It's a little microscope for looking. You put very small glass under there, and so you can raise it up and down.
Little slide.
Yeah, and it's got a little mirror at the bottom, and obviously look in the top, and you can. I sometimes get water out of my pond, and you can see all the little organisms all swimming around, and it's all made of brass, and it's beautifully put together. So nice.
I mean, nobody has an individual microscope anymore, do they?
No, nobody these days, Keith. It's a sort of thing of the past that people do in their house. I'm a bit strange. So I've got another one here. Yeah. It's another one that's
Oh, right, yeah.
up, and then it's got the mirror at the bottom. That, but in its time, this was, we talk about technology, but in its time,
Yeah.
this was just this is most probably 1890 age. But the technology, if you think of all of these, for focusing, the lenses that you can change in the top. There was no electric, so you'd have to have a mirror, and the mirror would catch the light, and that would send it through the bottom into the lens, so you actually see. But it's amazing. It's bits of technology.
Yes.
We
Now,
depend now.
it's very interesting, is that sort of thing, because one of my favorite historical characters locally is a man called Mad Jack Fuller, who was MP between, he lived towards the end of the 1700s, the beginning of the 1800s, and he was filthy, filthy, filthy rich. I mean, filthy, filthy, filthy rich, because he made his money from slavery. He was the only beneficiary of an uncle who owned plantations in the West Indies. But Mad Jack was a firm believer in slavery till the day he died. But there are all sorts of follies around East Sussex that he built, because he wanted to be able to walk to the top of them and see how the Napoleonic Wars were going, that sort of thing. But the reason that I mention that is he made what I think are two very significant sponsorships. One was Davy experimenting with a miner's lamp.
Yeah, lamp. Yeah.
Yeah, so the miners could safely go down the mines.
Davy
The
lamp.
other was Faraday's cage, which
Yeah.
led to television.
Yeah, amazing.
So he was a great beneficiary. He was also 22 stone, and his graveyard monument is a pyramid in the churchyard of a little village about 10 miles from Lewes. And it is said that he is there with his favorite bottle of claret and his food in front of him, sitting at a table.
Oh, it's a lovely story. But I think one of the things I've been doing, I've been collecting different bits, particularly scientific instruments and clocks for a number of years, and I just think the technology is, we now are so dependent on technology. We have it here, Keith, and if something goes wrong with the internet, we can't do anything.
Yeah, that's right.
We're stranded, and it's the same with sort of clocks. And I've got a nice little pocket watch here, which is still going from yesterday, but you can see the cog at the bottom there going, and you wind this up. You wind this up, and it keeps going for a couple of days. I'm going to need a bigger one in here, which was, I think that's show you. It's my grandfather's. It's called a Goliath.
Wow!
And
you haven't shown that one before. That's wonderful.
And that goes for 7 days without stopping. So you wind it, and it just goes for 7 days.
Incredible.
Yeah. But I think you depend upon watches now that have got batteries in, but if the battery stops, you're scuppered. I don't wear a watch actually, but these, you wind. This will keep going for 7 days. It's quite amazing. And then there's another little one here, another slightly small one. But then when you see the technology in the back of it with the cogs and
Oh yes, it's fascinating.
it's amazing. And I just think this one's most probably 100 years old. And you wonder how much, how many things that are made now will be still around in 100 years.
Yes. Actually, I've been struggling. I like to pick up things from other industries, and I was looking at the back of the Times yesterday, and they had a big fuss about football shirts, and I thought, actually, in some ways, Mirador is a bit like football because we bring in these talents and we're forming a team and the strength here and the weakness there, and we need to address it. And I thought I can't ask people to wear a football shirt, but I wonder whether what we should do is over a period of weeks is get everybody who appears on Mirador to wear a fob watch.
Yes, very good idea.
That would be the uniform.
Yes, the uniform normally, I put mine on just so you can see how it should go. But, you put your pocket watch in there like this.
Yes, indeed.
And then you just bring your pocket watch out. See the time. It's very efficient, it's very efficient way of.
Yeah, it's also quite smart.
Yeah. I've got on the end of this one, which is interesting. Have you seen this before, Keith? It's a Vespa. Contains matches.
Oh, goodness gracious me!
And then the bottom of it
is serrated. So yeah.
Yes, stripe the match on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yes, right. I think it's called a Vesta. I think.
In fact, there was a brand of match, wasn't there, called a Swan Vesta?
That's it, Swan Vestas. Yes, I think that came from the sort of word of the Vesta. But obviously, it was the sort of precursor before the boxer matches, etc. But I think we've said before, haven't we, that for I often get stopped. People will say to me, "That's really smart. What's that you're wearing?" And I'll say, "Yes, this." And the young people have never seen anything like it before.
No.
Yeah, people sort of under the age of 25 have never seen a wind-up watch.
Yeah.
So let alone see a pocket watch. They don't know what a pocket watch is.
Yes.
But
there's a nice little room. There's a nice little room in the Shelley's Hotel that would make a nice little museum room.
Yes.
So we've got to try and persuade him to buy this.
Yeah, we could fill it with sort of old and new, couldn't you? You could put things next. I always think it'd be good to put things next to each other now. I remember. It's really not that long ago, but when you go to hospital now, it's amazing now. If you have a blood test, you can get the results of a blood test in, literally an hour. They just pop it in the machine now, and you get the results through. But back in the day, even when I was training, everything you did everything by hand. So it took days and days, look at things under the microscope, do different biochemical tests. Now they put that little vial into a machine, and it gives you your iron levels and your, this, that, and the other, and it even picking out bits of DNA, and most recently they've found some markers that help identify the early onset of dementia. And it's just amazing now that, they've done this by finding little bits of DNA, and they've found that there's just something that's missing. There's like a little missing link in the DNA, and that's a potential precursor for onset of dementia. So, people can get early warning signs and such like. And I don't know if there's anything like that for Parkinson's, Keith. I don't know if there's anything that they've found that sort of can give an indication of early onset Parkinson's disease. I remember reading something.
I'm not absolutely sure myself, but one of the things that is happening is that there are enough people like Jeremy Paxman and Selin Jones who, they're fairly powerful media figures who have started this organization which does a blog. I've forgotten the name of it just offhand, which is silly. But that is part of Parkinson's, is that you do start to have not dementia, but slight memory loss. But anyway, they have actually handed in a petition at number 10.
Yeah, so that's TV.
Saying more must be done in research because people don't understand the devastation of Parkinson's. I understand the devastation because I live with it every day of my life. The other thing is, I'm just one of those half glass full people that, yes, of course, I get a bit down about it, just the same as you got down about your cancer. But we fight back and we keep going, and we find something in a day to laugh about.
Yeah, exactly.
I am blessed with the people that joined Mirador and continue to join Mirador because they are such positive people. I mean, nobody gave local television a chance. All the experts said, no, never work. Well, here we are, 5 years on, and going from strength to strength, and talking about 175 million viewers.
It is. It's interesting because there's also been lots of evidence to show that, and it sort of once again leads sort of depression and dementia, etc. But if you do have a good laugh, we've said before, if you have a good laugh, socialize, your brain produces serotonin, and it's that serotonin that makes you feel better. And I certainly do. If I have a good laugh, and like we do, I feel much better at the end of it, rather than if I was just sitting here on my own, not doing anything. And I'm pretty sure, Keith, that you're an amazing guy who, I don't know what time you get up in the morning, but you're doing that 5 days a week, getting on your scooter, getting up here. But actually, all of that, I think, keeps your brain going, keeps the serotonin pumping, and keeps that.
I think we can all be very satisfied, Mark, that we actually are making an impact on society. We are getting people to ask questions. And Liza Page, who is jubilant that questions are now being asked about the WHO and its influence. Because she's been on about it for a long time and been sneered at, and no, it's the WHO. But now governments are saying, hang on, you perhaps got a bit more power than you should have. And we are making a mark. Slowly, we're still small,
Surely.
but we're gaining traction every day. And
Mm.
you, particularly with starting a university of innovation, innovation is the key word. And
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. And
Yeah.
that it's part of Mirador Television and going to be part of this small but influential town is fantastic, absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. I think it is. I think that's it, isn't really. And although times change, it's often quite good to reflect back. We had a power cut last week, and all of the things on your cooker and all that, they're all electric, so you don't know what the time is. And but with the trusted pocket watch, I knew what the time was, and I knew your bedside clock doesn't work and that sort of thing, because that's plugged into the mains. But so some of the old school stuff actually is really important, and important that we don't forget all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. We need to put all sorts of things in context. And, that's why I think that your little museum is so important. Things that are familiar to you and I are not to the average youngster. And when I say the average youngster, anybody under 40
Yeah.
is learning. Even by you holding stuff up and bringing them on, is the fountain pen was a stroke of genius.
Yeah,
It never
absolutely.
occurred to me that people don't know what fountain pens
No,
are, but they don't.
no. Yeah, I'm sure you can buy. You don't see pen shops anymore, do you? You don't see. I think
Uh,
you used to be able to go into WH Smith's and buy a Park. I know you know some Parker pens, but you used to be able to go in somewhere like WH Smith, and they'd have a counter full of fountain pens, ballpoint pens, inks, bottles of inks, etc. Um, Now you'd have to do it. I suppose you'd have to do it, buy them online. I don't know anywhere that sells pens. Maybe there are specialist shops in London, I'm sure, but
we are being a bit noisier than usual. Yes,
they've been swept up.
But we mustn't stop the workman worthy of his hire.
No,
He's got up early too to clean the pub.
he's having a
So
sleep.
I think, Mark, what we'll do is we'll call it quits.
Yeah,
We've been going for over an hour now,
great,
and it's always fantastic to talk to you.
great,
But we've got so many things to get on with now, and
perfect.
the thing is, most of it is poking other people to do stuff. Yeah.
So see you on Friday. See you on Friday, Keith.
Yes, I mean that program on Friday is
Great.
becoming a massive program.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
More and more people are finding it and enjoying it.
Yeah, I love it.
Friday, neither you, Melissa, Harry, or anybody else is
Yeah,
permitted to stand
great.
down.
Perfect. All right, have a good day, Keith.
You too,
Bye now.
Mark Maybe is a ball of fire, and is certainly a fascinating character. And as he said, he was trying to make the college that we met at as exciting as he possibly could. And that's why I think that the University of Innovation is going to be fantastic. Now, I came across some programs from the past, and I think that if I can find one. Here is one that Charles Dickens used this as his short story, The Ghost Train. So I'm going to play it for you as just remember Dickens.
Many people find commuting by train tiresome. But one of the pleasures of taking a train to London is that it passes through some of the most beautiful countryside in the UK. None more so than the view of the countryside as the line approaches Clayton Tunnel, just north of Brighton. The tunnel is the longest on the line, at 1.25 miles, running under the South Downs. It's unusual because the entrance is not the usual railway brick. It is instead designed to look like the gateway to a castle. On top is a cottage built for the railway's lightkeeper in 1849. The tunnel itself was opened in 1841 and the cottage added later. Idyllic. But after 1861 it became a nightmare, or at least for those who believe in ghostly goings-on. In August of that year, a night train left Brighton, travelling north to London. Partway through the tunnel, it stopped at what it thought was a danger signal from the lightman. The engine driver was correct. The railway official had indeed given a danger signal, but the train had rushed past him before pulling up. Thinking the train had cleared the tunnel, the unfortunate lightman gave the all clear to a following train. And it slammed into the back of the first train in the dark, killing 23 and injuring 176 more. It was the worst ever accident on the line. And people walking on the downs over the underground passage have reported hearing the screams of the passengers as the trains pile into each other. The line is now also a direct line from Lewes. I've travelled through that tunnel 1,000 times. I've never heard a scream other than the screech of the wheels and brakes. But I've never walked over the downs at that point either. And I turned down an invitation to stay in the cottage overnight. In fact, I get tense each time I go into the tunnel, knowing what had happened more than 165 years ago. But my fellow passengers carry on reading their newspapers, obviously oblivious to both the tragedy and the ghosts. I could sometimes scream at them. The ghosts of Clayton Tunnel. Eerie. Bloody eerie.
Oh, there you are. It's a ghost story. I think I can tell the tale now. There is one deliberate error in that video, and that is that in the group walking across the downs are confronted by an African elephant. And of course, from time to time, we have to get from agencies and from the internet and so on video clips. And that one nobody noticed until the program was put together, that we got an African elephant on the South Downs. There we are. There we are. Now, while we're waiting for Kit, let's see if we've got another a brief. We got a very long one about Henty, but I think not. Not one that we is far too long to fill in for 10 minutes. Yes. No, we haven't got anything short enough. Strangely enough, normally we would be saying long enough. But let me see. I always like a good spy story, and the Times has on its front page a police officer charged with spying for the Chinese. A special constable and border force officer is among 3 men charged with spying on Hong Kong pro-democracy activists living in Britain. Chi Lung Wai, 38, who has joint Chinese-British nationality, appeared in court yesterday alongside a Hong Kong trade official and a former member of the British military. Wai, from Staines-upon-Thames, is a UK Border Force officer based at Heathrow and a City of London Special Constable, a volunteer role with the same powers as a regular officer. He is the founder of D5 Security, and his website claims he has more than 20 years of experience in the British military, police, and private security sector. Well, he's charged with spying, and the penalties if found guilty are pretty severe. They are pretty severe. Oh dear. A Belfast judge has blocked Rwanda flights in Northern Ireland. Ministers are concerned that illegal immigrants will flock to Northern Ireland to avoid deportation to Rwanda after its judge ruled that Rishi Sunak's small boats law cannot apply in their province. Now there's a little blip there. Philip is back. Hello, Philip.
I came back because I thought the prof was on. I thought Mark Freebie was on.
He's just this moment left.
Oh, that's
yes, we had a very good talk, but he wanted to be assured that Friday was on, and of course you won't be there on Friday, will you?
No, I will as soon as I get back from Angering. I'll check in.
Good. I was saying to him, what a special program that has now become.
Well, Melissa is a joy. Mark is a lovely guy. Then, of course, if Harry comes on as well, it adds to the crucible.
Yes.
And then there's you and me, so it's a rogues gallery.
It is indeed a real jamboree and an exciting one as well.
Well, yes,
because I read it. Yes, Mark was actually saying that he was invited to last week's question time, which came from Stoke-on-Trent.
Oh,
and he said, what a waste of time. He said, Fiona Bruce is delightful and very professional, but he said that the restrictions on the program is that they ended up talking about Rwanda. He said he thought that he thought that they would talk about issues with Stoke, which have a particularly bad drug problem. Now, Kit has just turned up, so I'm going to go and get Kit.
Right,
so will you hold the fort for a moment?
Yes, of course. Well, there we are, Mirador. Off this amazing man, Keith Hayes, goes. No need for any handrails. He's had a lovely night's sleep. What an absolute Trojan this man is. Utterly devoted to the program we all enjoy appearing on, and long may it continue. Of course, he needs every bit of support he can find. And when I'm free, I try and anchor for him Mondays and Fridays, particularly when I'm not on what I call the school run, which is taking my wife to work and back. And there we are. He thrives, does Keith, on the contributors, the messages, I can see one here. Real Savannah Bond, or Real Savannah Bond, whoever sir or madam you are. And yes, I'm sure Keith won't mind one bit if you send him a friend request on Facebook.
Yeah. Good.
He won't mind that at all.
Thank you.
So, you know, now we're about to be joined. We're about to be joined by a local man of high intellect.
Running repairs.
Okay.
Has Kit brought his own chair?
Yes. Kit's arrived.
Yeah, but has he brought his own chair? He seemed to be.
Has he brought?
He seemed to be putting his own chair together there.
Sorry, what?
We were too far away to hear. Sit down and then we'll. Right. Can you repeat, please?
No, I saw Kit. It appeared that he was putting a chair together.
Yes, I was.
And I wondered if he brought his own chair.
No, this one will do. Now I fixed it.
Yeah, well, Declan will be very grateful to you, Kit, for repairing his own kit.
Yes, I'm sure he would be if he knew.
If he knew, well, I'll make sure he knows.
Thanks.
I'll make sure he knows. But now, Kit, you probably don't remember me, but I used to see you quite a lot in the Brewers Arms.
Right.
I was a barrister in those days and was generally wearing a suit and silly clothes.
Yeah. I do remember you.
But there we are. So I was roped in by the scoundrel to your right to be part of Mirador, and I've never looked forward since.
Just sideways.
At best, kids. At best. Well, I will leave you and Keith to your own devices. And Keith, I'll see you in the morning, sir.
All right. I look forward to that. And thank you for your input in the last couple of days.
No, you're welcome. If I'm around now, I'm retired. I can. Well, I like to pop in. I like to pop in just to check that you're okay.
Okay.
You know, running a television station in your mid-80s with parkies can't be easy. So we need to keep an eye on you.
Yes, it's a real breakthrough innovation tomorrow. I've actually got a doctor's appointment.
No.
Good grief.
Strange things happening in our society.
He must know the right strings to pull.
Dare I ask what time?
10:45.
Right.
So just after the problematic time. So I shall be out of here by 10:30 with my glass of cider in my hand and in time to share it with the doctor.
Oh yes, you must do that. You must do that. Look, hopefully your doctor's from the West Country. If not, he or she may decline. All right, Keith and Kit, have a lovely program. See you again.
Right.
Thanks, Philip. Right. Welcome back, Kit. You've been AWOL for quite some time.
Well, it's nice to see you. Yes.
What have you been doing with the time that we gave you off?
Been in prison.
Yes, I've just been let out. As a matter of fact, largely in the West Country, Bristol, Cardiff, Chard in Somerset, caught up with an old mate, just pottering around really, having a very pleasant break.
You've got a nice tone to your skin. Did you catch the sun?
Yes, I think so, yeah. I pretended to do some gardening at the weekend
Ah.
when it was sunny.
Now, is just to remind you, as if you need reminding, Kit is a veteran schoolmaster at Lewis Old Grammar School, better known as Logs, and has taken us through the history of the school, but also is started to analyse for us what's happening in the educational sector. And it seems to me that it alters almost on a day-to-day basis at the moment, Kit. So what is the latest with education and the government? It sounds like a novel. Education and the government.
I believe I've expressed before my opinion that the government ought to keep its nose out of it, largely, apart from filling a supervisory role to make sure places are run safely and with the welfare of the children at heart. I think the content of the curriculum really shouldn't be any business of theirs.
Yeah.
It should be a business of negotiation between parents, the students themselves, if they're old enough to form opinion, which many are from the early teens onwards, and the institution providing the education. I think really there's too much meddling from short-lived ministers who feel that they need to make a mark and have some new set of regulations with their name against them.
How is Logs going to be affected by the Labour Party's policy if they get elected?
Well, it will make things difficult because, of course, the VAT exemption on the paying of school fees is a significant, represents quite a significant sum, which parents would, I believe, immediately have to find to add to their fees. The school itself, being at the lower end of the market of independent schools, doesn't have any margin to absorb any of that. It would have to be passed on to the parents. And very sadly, that will mean that however much we try to help with allowing extension to the time that's paid, schools such as ours will be hit by it. I think what they seem to have dropped, which I feel is probably for the best, is the proposal to, or at least put into a pending tray, the proposal to look carefully at the charitable status that many schools such as ours enjoy at the moment, which I feel that for want of any system of recompensing parents who want to put their children through the private system for the capitation that they aren't using up in the state sector, some sort of voucher system as was used in the primary sector, something like that. But failing that, there isn't any such thing with charitable awarding of reductions to fees, which the vast majority of independent schools offer. It is very valuable to children who benefit from smaller class sizes and a slightly more.
How does the charitable status work?
Well, it gives us exemption from a number of dues. For example, it I believe means that we pay. Now, I'm not sure about this. My impression is that we pay negligible business rates, things of that sort, which together would add up to another financial hit.
Right.
And we would struggle to be able to provide free or reduced fees to the worthy, deserving, less well off. Can I go back to your question about where do you see the more general system going? Because I had an interesting conversation with a bloke who works in aerospace. And we got round to discussing the fact that if you were trying to design a flying machine now, it probably wouldn't look anything like the flying machines that are in the sky, because you'd start from scratch without any preconceived ideas. And I'm rather attracted to that sort of idea in the realm of education. Forget everything that's gone before. I don't think we would design a system where children sit in rows or round tables and have such formal instruction. I don't think that's really intuitive. It's certainly not the way people learn in situations where there isn't a formal education system. It's a little bit radical, but
no, on the contrary. I mean, I honestly do think that viewing a lot. I asked the same thing about housing. Is if we didn't have houses the way that they are at the moment, with all the shortage of housing and who should have what and 2 up and 3 down and so on, is if in fact we looked at it from a totally different point of view, would we actually be chasing the model that we're chasing at the moment?
no, I don't think we would. I think we'd be looking, particularly in the UK, we'd be looking at schemes of building which put the houses on stilts, wouldn't we? So that you don't lose all your possessions every time the floodwaters come up. Sort of crannock building and that sort of thing would be quite good, yeah.
Well, now I remember. I'm quite sure that because I didn't focus on such things, but it wasn't a new concept. But when I was at Reuters doing a story on one of the big organizations, companies, who actually had a room and they hired graduates, particularly bright graduates, who went into this room and did nothing but discuss things outside the box. Do you think that sort of approach to a number of our things, including education, might work?
Very much so, yes. I often see education in the proper sense taking place in my daily life, well, a few days a week anyway. Education taking place very much through informal conversations. Youngsters asking people questions, not about what's necessarily printed on their timetable, about other aspects of life experience and so forth. I think that some of the parts of my education, which I remember fondly, are things such as educational visits, people in some sort of field of expertise talking to us about their work and experience. I think those situations are much underrated and made rather hard to set up as well because of the difficulty in organising such things. If we could roll back the formality that seems to attach itself to the way we suppose people ought to be educated, it would be preferable.
Well, now, let me be a real pain in the bum.
Surely.
Would it be beneficial, do you think, if you took, say, sixth formers because I think younger children wouldn't have the mental capacity developed to discuss such things. But sixth formers did exactly that. That once a week, some sixth formers were put into a room for a morning and told, think through how you would develop or change or bring in things that you lacked, were lacking in education. Would that be an innovative way of getting, if you like, the customer involved in how things should go forward?
Well, yes, that's very important, isn't it? And the experience that the in our case, paying customers put through isn't necessarily what they choose. Just to reminisce, a previous headmaster at the old grammar school, Roy Mead, as an experiment, randomly picked the timetable of a lower school pupil, that somebody in the first or second year, and sat in that pupil's lessons for a whole week. And at the end of it, he said he felt as if he'd been run over by a Panzer tank. And really, it is quite grueling what we put into. You imagine 8 or 9 consecutive half-hour blasts of people who all think that they have an urgent need to instill their factual knowledge and behavioural code into these youngsters, or 5-hour blocks or whatever the day is, and it really is tough. I know that in teaching, to have a day with no free non-contact time is terribly grueling, and we make them do that every day. I don't think it can possibly be the way they'd learn. I'm sure that's what they'd say. Sixth formers, of course, do have a certain amount of free time. Very creditably, many of us spend at least some of that time helping the younger children, helping them with reading, for example. That's always a very heartwarming sight. During those sessions, they'll be talking over their own experiences of life in the school, holding out a little glimmer of light at the end of a rather dark tunnel for these young people.
I just want to diverge for a moment because you just said a key word, reading. Is Mark Maybe, who is just a retired professor, said that he went into a restaurant a little while ago, and 4 people came and sat down at the next table. They all pulled out their phones. He said, and the way they were going in between the meal, he said, and after a while he realized they were actually talking to each other. Now, do you have problems in getting people to read in the traditionally academic sense, as opposed to?
Yes, I'd say yes. Not insuperable, but yes, it is hard work. I think what people are becoming more used to and appreciate more is something a little bit semi-chopped up, half chewed for them in the first place. They want little gobbets of text. They want to be directed a little bit more. An increasing majority, by no means all, are reluctant to read a whole book or even a chapter. And that is a difficulty.
Could reading actually disappear? Do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it will. No, I mean these things are predicted, aren't they? And they don't really disappear. In fact, I've got a theory, which is that nothing really disappears. They all thought that the railways were going to kill the canals. Well, they gave them a hefty body blow that There are still people chugging around the canals, aren't there?
Yes.
Enjoying fishing in them and stuff. No, I don't think reading will disappear. It's what would the conservationists say? I think it's on the under pressure list. It's not endangered. It's certainly not on the red list, but it's being hit a little bit.
Now, you mentioned Ron Mead, was it?
Roy, yes.
Roy. I remember, and I think it was under his headmastership, coming to give a talk to your sixth formers at Logs. Do you still have a fairly significant program of people coming in and talking from the greater world, as it were?
Yes, we do, and it's wonderful. Yes, we regularly have people who are associated with the school. I think that's quite important. People who have been pupils or parents of current pupils and come in and talk about their experiences and their work, and are open to receive wider questions. I think those sort of opportunities are really very good indeed. I'm sure we could do more. Time is always a pressure because of that rather prescriptive curriculum leading to examination that the government has foisted on us. There should be more time for that sort of thing. More time for exploring the town and district, its local history, culture, creative activity, and so on. There should be a lot more of that. But we aren't too bad at arranging those sorts of things.
The question of dealing with the wider world, as it were, while let's call them youngsters, even though some sixth formers now are 7 feet 10 and 220 pounds, and really you can't call them youngsters, but are they keen to get involved in the wider world? I mean, is there any value, for instance, because Mark Maybe and two of his young college graduates think that we are missing now the apprenticeship scheme, which we had 50 years ago. It was a brilliant scheme. We slowly did away with it on the basis that everybody should go to university or college. But there are practical considerations. And I know that in our own industry, in this industry, is that a lot of people get a decent degree, and they get the theory, and they turn up and they go, "Hello, I've got a degree in media, and I'd like to come and work for you." And the first question that rough old news editors like me ask is, "What experience have you got?" I say, "Well, no experience, but I'll come back when you've got experience." Where do I get experience?
Well, yes, it is possible to I'm not. Having said that, I'm not all that much in favour of the exploitation of younger people in this ghastly fiddle of those unpaid internships. I think that's a very, very cruel and unfair system. But no, I agree. But I must, I suppose, stand up for my trade and say that I don't think a degree is ever worthless. I think it is in itself a very rich and enriching experience, and it can add to somebody. So a promising young journalist or whatever she or he might be can, as well as gaining experience and going into it with that essential part of the trajectory, can be greatly enriched by the experience of having been to university. Getting the benefit of a university education isn't just sitting in the lectures and writing a dissertation. It's all the things we've been discussing.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I mean, I never regret getting a degree myself, although it wasn't in journalism, it was in the classics. I don't remember a word of Latin. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, if I sounded as if I was anti degree, but what I do, I think there is a middle road. We've had a number of graduates come to work at Mirador over the years it's been going. And there are two things which bother me, I suppose. Is one, they want to start at the top, and two is they want to alter what it is. They've got some fixed idea of what, let's say, for the sake of argument, a television station is. And if it's not exactly according to their dream or their vision, they then start to work towards altering it. That does bother me a little bit. But once again, is steering youngsters in the right direction, what I would consider the right direction, does mean education. And what I think I'm asking is there enough of the practical side of any business, whether it's oil drilling or anything else, undertaken at the school level, that we should be undertaking at the school level? No. I know you have very fixed ideas about where education should go, and a lot of them make a lot of sense, and they're not all being followed at the moment.
No. Well, your most recent point, I think the prime example of this rather arrogant person coming in and wanting to start at the top with no experience is the average Minister of Education, who comes all fresh-faced from the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries or some such, and thinks that they know all about education and have the right to change it. And no, I agree that there isn't enough experience. There should be. Nearly every school organises some sort of work experience for children in around about year 10 and sixth form level, usually a couple of sessions. I think there should be more. I think we should be trying to let people who want to take it out, there shouldn't be any obligation on them, let people explore other more practical, particularly more practical, not necessarily just practical areas, and get some of that experience, which will help them later. Somebody who's keen to pursue a purely academic subject, nevertheless needs to get some practical experience. History, for example, which is my subject, it may be difficult to imagine how practical experience could be built into that, but it certainly can. It certainly can. People are working on research all the time in history at universities on their own behalf. So yes, that would be possible.
Now, is getting back a little to where we were, because we've sort of gone onto a red herring, but an important red herring is we talked a little bit about the fee structure and the possibility of labour. Are there things which you see the possibility of coming up, which would disturb you, which you would welcome, which you would love to be able to say, right, Mr. Keir Starmer, let me sit down and talk to you about, so that you totally understand? Are there key issues there?
Well, I don't know, maybe it's a bit high-flying to call it humanitarian instinct, is that the charging VAT on independent school fees is no doubt has justice on its side. At the level of the people who are going to be affected, I think it should be phased in. I don't think really that existing parents should be penalised. Existing students should be penalised and put through the major disruption of having to move school in the middle of their secondary education. So I think it should be phased in. Other than that, it would be just back off and let schools develop their own curriculum.
Actually, there are legislatively at the moment exemptions to VAT, aren't there? I mean, couldn't schools stay in those exemptions?
Oh yes, no doubt it would be possible. It would require some people to sit down and draft for once an effective law that didn't have loopholes larger than the bits that hung together. Yes, exemptions for people who could show that they were going to be badly affected by the sudden increase. Yes, that would totally be possible.
How much do you think, because you are an independent school, what you call a private school, how much of this business of, which I find distasteful, elitism enter into the decision making of deciding to ding schools such as yourselves with VAT?
I think that there no doubt are people who, in the Labour movement and other political parties, as a matter of fact, who feel that the exemption is unfair. I think it probably is actually unfair. But my concern is that the people who have decided that independent education is right for their child at the moment shouldn't be forced because of it.
Yeah.
I think it isn't probably ideological. I don't know a great deal about the inner workings of the minds of the shadow cabinet, but I don't think they're doing it from ideological reasons. I think there is a genuine belief that there's a place for independent schools for some children.
But if you don't think that it's to a certain extent look at it being an elite way, elite is perhaps the wrong word, but for those people who can afford it, a way of educating our children, and therefore it shouldn't be given financial support such as not paying that. What would your argument be for maintaining any form of that? I mean, I'll be quite blunt. I would be all for not changing the status quo.
Mm-hmm. I agree but I feel that actually that independent schools should be made a little more. They should maybe be pushed a little bit more to be actively seeking to provide education for those who couldn't afford their fees. A model such as that over at Horsham at Christ's Hospital, whereby grateful former alumni sponsor new students through the school, and those sorts of things I think could be pursued so that more people get the benefit, the undoubted benefits of the smaller class sizes and richer curriculum, in fact, that private schools offer. The real ideal, of course, would be to make all schools capable of teaching in smaller classes and having a wide range of particularly creative subjects.
You say smaller schools. I'm going to make an analogy now. Is the powers that be say, if only we had more police, so give us more money for police. But in fact, insiders will tell you that it doesn't matter how much money you make available, recruiting police is a very difficult situation. Now, if in fact, with your formula, there was a lot of money made available so that there could be smaller classes, would there be the teaching staff and the teaching capability available?
Well, no, that initially that would be very difficult in much the same way as it's hard to recruit police officers. It would be very difficult. There is a critical shortage of new teachers coming into the profession, and it really is critical in some of the, particularly in some of the larger cities, but not even the larger ones actually. I know of a couple of schools in Brighton that are finding it difficult to fill vacancies. I think the profession has to be made a little more attractive for younger people. But you see, it's part of the reason why teaching is difficult and stressful and has a very high dropout rate from people who've newly joined. And it's because of the large class sizes, the workload that puts on people, the problems with classroom management that imposes, which is all very stressful. Those things would gradually be solved if one could recruit more teachers and get class sizes down to the low 20s. But no, it's going to need money. And I suppose really that's one of the arguments for raising VAT on school fees.
The VAT would go towards education.
Well, it'll go into the treasury. Won't it? Nothing really to do with that. But there was a quotation from Peter Mandelson in the papers at the weekend saying, we're comfortable with people being filthy rich as long as they pay their taxes. And that surely is the point, that if you can get rid of these tax dodges, I suppose they are really, then you have a better funded treasury for public services.
Right. You are standing in the next election and you win and you immediately become Minister of Education. How are you going to look at some of the problems that education, obviously in such a position you would have to prioritize what you would attack first. What would you do as Education Minister?
Well, I'd be knocking on the door of number 11 saying, give us more money. And it would be recruitment of teachers. That's the key. Recruitment of good quality teachers with good subject knowledge, but more importantly, motivation. And I'm afraid that does largely come down to money, because the workload is not concomitant with the starting salaries. They are below the starting pay in many of the other professions. So I'd like to see golden hellos, not just for maths and science teachers, as have been tried recently, but for double golden hello for teachers in creative subjects or the humanities and languages. So get a broad range of good recruit teachers and gradually start to bring class sizes down. School security, I would sadly have to put quite high on my list. And I think I should, other than that, say I'm actually not going to do very much. But if you want my advice, it will be to make sure you're giving students lots of experience, lots of visits, lots of talks from outside speakers, lots of what we could generally call field work, and facilities.
Okay, you said that there is a flow out of the sector. Is now as I am headmaster of logs, and because I know you, the education minister, I'm going to say, tell us where to go to look for quality teachers.
Yes, that's a very good question. It's something that hasn't been done for some while, but I remember we had when I was at university, we had a careers fair was set up for, I think it was when we were in our second year of the undergraduate course. And I think one should be evangelizing undergraduates. One should be going to universities, but of course one has to have something. If one's painting a rosy picture, it can't, it has to have some basis in fact. I think the conditions that meet youngsters going into education aren't at all likely to recruit them at the moment. So that's quite a good politician's answer to your question. I don't know. You advertise, I suppose. Advertise.
Right, Kit. Now pull out your crystal ball. Is this wouldn't be untoward in the business sector? I'm not sure in the education sector. Where would you see logs in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, and 20 years' time?
The immediate problem of the sudden increase in fees which looks almost certain to happen within the next couple of years will be surmounted. I'm afraid it's for a rather sad reason. It's because the pupils who have to be taken out from schools such as the undergrad will be replaced by people who are at more expensive whose children are at more expensive private schools. That's something we're already seeing with the difficulties people are experiencing in their household budgets anyway. So I think it could be in a very similar shape, very similar and therefore healthy shape in 5 years' time. 10 years, who knows? Who knows in 10 years? Like you, I am rather alarmed by the electronic culture that young people are addicted to.
All done, mate. All right.
So
Nice to meet you,
I can't see that far ahead.
Say nice, I'm Ali. Nice to meet you.
You do think it's got a real hold?
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Right, Minister, I agree with you. We're suffering at our school. You're in charge. What do we do about that? What would you support us in doing? What would you advise us to do?
Ban them.
Ban
Mobile phones. And if the students have to travel a long way to get to and from school, then they hand them in at the school gate or at the school office. They're not to be used in the school premises. That would be my.
And what's your policy at the moment?
They can have them with, and many schools do that. Actually, they do expect the pupils to hand them in. We don't. They can have them on them, but they're not allowed to turn them on or use them during the day without specific permission, such as, for example, phoning a parent to arrange a medical appointment or something like that. But no, I'd have them not able to have them on them during the school day.
Right. Now, the reason I've asked you about 50 years is I can remember when I was about 12 or 13, being at the home of a friend, and their parents came back from a church lecture, and they said, we've just listened to a man who actually believes that one day we'll put men on the moon. Now it wasn't that long after that. I mean that would have been in the 50s. Is that in the 60s we were doing exactly that. So would you see anything really? Do you have a feel right now? Because I describe you as a veteran teacher. I mean, if anybody, you're a bit like me. With 60 years in media, you're not quite that old, but you've had a long, distinguished career in education. So perhaps more than some of your colleagues, you've got a feel for where things are going. So bearing in mind that the moonshot, what would your imagination see or want in 50 years' time?
Well, I see the development taking place anyway, and it's a very, very welcome one. And it's the fact that in sympathetically managed and run schools such as ours, there's hardly any fear. There was fear 50 years ago. It was a worrying experience that students were put through. Not just a small minority, but there was apprehension at least, if not fear, as part of their daily experience. That no longer is the general case. Of course, some children are fearful. Some children find difficulties in the interaction they're expected, the rather rigid interaction they're expected to carry. But I see that as a trajectory that I would really like to see continue, so that schools are absolutely comfortable places where one would be totally at ease in all circumstances. Not to say that mental challenges shouldn't be put on them, but not emotional ones.
And do you think that emotional element is likely to be enveloped? Are you seeing it develop at the moment, or are you just saying that's what I like?
Oh no, I've seen it develop, and it's nationwide. Children on their way to school are generally happy to be in that situation. 50 years ago, I should say that a horribly high proportion of them weren't particularly happy to be going to school. I remember myself suffering from apprehension about some aspects of my school life, although generally I had a very happy time. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that progress that has been made continue, so that it is a happy and rich and challenging, but happy experience for young people.
No more names like Killer Straw.
No, except in a jocular fashion, because he kills bad jokes, you know. No, exactly.
Okay. Well, strangely enough, we have got to allow the pub to open.
Oh dear.
We've had another fascinating chat about both logs specifically, but also education, and you really are very enlightening when it comes to that, Kit. And in fact, I'm not joking when people have been saying to me, "Where's Kit?" People have appreciated and seen the value of what it is you're doing, and we try to be as informative as we possibly can. But we do have to call it quits for today. You'll be back in 2 weeks' time?
Yes, I hope so.
Good. And I like this sort of hybrid chat because I haven't forgotten there are elements of the past that we haven't covered that undoubtedly you would think are important. But by the same token, looking ahead to what's happening, and particularly since you're obviously going to go through changing times, shall we say, along with the political atmosphere. It's important, I think, for people to be guided by somebody who understands what's happening, and you are most certainly doing that. So, Kit, thank you very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, and look forward to it. And it's just so that we can get our own compensation. We've got to make sure that this pub opens up. So I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Until then, it's toodaloo. Bye-bye. I just held on for a moment because we had somebody who typed in, but it wasn't a real comment. So we'll say goodbye, really, this time. Ta-da.